right?
Okay, I'm back.
I think what's happening there is the United States are prepared for a response. All right, they want to have the assets in place in case they have to go back into Iran or perhaps into other countries, maybe Iraq, for example, if Iraqi militias begin to attack U.S. bases. So they want to have those assets there just in case. Hopefully, they don't have to use them, of course, right? But you know, these militias.
He said any retaliation against the U.S. will be met with force.
So now it's their turn.
Yeah, you know, the kind of fundamental thinking after Israel took out Ismail Haniyeh, the leader of Hamas, in Tehran last summer, and kind of the blunt force reaction.
Any retaliation against the U.S. will be met with
a paper
force.
Tiger that it's all bark, no bite. And you even heard that over the last week as kind of the number of missiles they've launched into Israel has dwindled here. So is it safe to say that they won't retaliate based on the threats President Trump is giving and offering, the saber rattling from the White House, that any retaliation by Iran will be met with this amount of force, if not stronger force than what we just used? So is Iran in this now weakened posture, weakened state? Should they crawl into a hole?
I think they are in a weakened state, for sure. I think the Israelis did a lot of damage over the last 8-9 days against their military infrastructure, of course, their nuclear sites. But I don't think we have seen the worst out of the Iranians, all right? This includes their proxies and clients. So I think the biggest problem, at least for the Israelis, for example, is the missile interceptors they've been using, they've had to use up over the last 8-9 days now. Let's say Iran decides, with their remaining missile launchers, they decide to begin launching barrages against Israel that lasts days and days and days.
Hey, stop playing.
These interceptors will run out of interceptors, and that's a big problem. What if the proxies join in? Then there's more missiles coming. How does Israel defend their skies without interceptors? So there could be a lot of damage that could be caused here if this war drags on. Of course, you have the problem with the United States, too. They have military bases. They have allies in the region. They can be attacked, too. So I understand the paper tiger. Some people calling it Iran a paper tiger, but I'm more conservative. I think there's a lot more that they can do. They have tricks up their sleeves, essentially. And they're also known for acts of terrorism, too. They don't have to retaliate only via missiles or only via drones. They have supported proxies that have carried out acts of terrorism against soft targets, against embassies, against Jewish targets, Israeli targets, American targets, obviously. So that's another big concern of mine, is terrorism.
No, mine too, and I was going to ask you that. And I don't want to be alarmist by any means. I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but I think, I speak for a lot of viewers right now. This is, a scary moment in world history, American history. We just don't know. It's very uncertain. But if someone has in the back of their mind right now, if they're watching, the thought that, Iran will do something on U.S. soil in the homeland, are they right to think that? Are they right to be concerned about that?
I think they have a right to be concerned. Because
the
problem is Iran has demonstrated that they're willing to do this, all right? Or its proxies have the capability to do this. That's the problem here in the homeland, here in the United States. And that does concern me. Can I give you a percentage if that's going to happen? I can't. But Iran has many tools at its disposal. That's the issue here. Yeah. So that's one of the things, one of the possibilities that can happen. I'm not saying just here in the homeland, of course. There could be acts of terrorism in other countries as well, where they're American targets or whether it's Israeli or Jewish targets. So again, that's a concern of mine. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen tomorrow or the next day. Listen, the Iranians and the Iranian government and their proxies have been known to play the long game. So they've waited months to carry out attacks or retaliations when it comes to employing acts of terrorism, like bombings, for example. So there's so much to consider here. It's very difficult, but at least I think people should know that it just doesn't mean Iran can attack in different ways. It doesn't have to be just missiles and drones, what we usually see, the conventional means, what we usually see on television.
All right, Joe Truzen, we're going to leave it at that. I know it's so late, and we thank you so much for coming on and helping us make sense of what is an extremely complex conflict that is still fluid, still playing out. Joe, good to see you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, in the meantime here, so we're not going to do any commercial breaks this hour. We're going to get back, though, to Capitol Hill. I was kind of highlighting for you some of the reaction coming in from lawmakers. We were going through kind of a litany of Democratic messages. Let's focus our efforts now, though, coming from Republicans here, including Marjorie Taylor Greene, the Republican of Georgia. I want to put this up here. She says this: that every time America is on the verge of greatness, we get involved in another foreign war, she says. There would not be bombs falling on the people of Israel if Netanyahu had not dropped bombs on the people of Iran first, she says. Israel is a nuclear-armed nation. This is not our fight. Peace is the answer. She also says, let us join together and pray for the safety of our U.S. troops and Americans in the Middle East. She says, let us pray that we are not attacked by terrorists on our homeland after our border was open for the past 4 years and over 2 million gotaways came in. She says, let us pray for peace. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, somewhat of a kind of now vociferous critic of this action, alongside some of her Republican colleagues in the House like Thomas Massey, who called this unconstitutional on X, who also signed on to an effort on the House side to also authorize these strikes via congressional authorization, of vote on the House floor. We'll see if that effort gains any traction. Majority Leader John Thune in the Senate says this: the regime in Iran, which has committed itself to bringing death to America and wiping Israel off the map, has rejected all diplomatic pathways to peace.
Pakistan and Iran and New York already acting like
as we take action tonight
acting up in transit station. Oh, wow.
I stand with President Trump and pray for the American troops and personnel in harm's way. You see him there. All right, we also have House Speaker Mike Johnson. He says this, and this is a long statement, bear with me, that the military operations in Iran should serve as a clear reminder to our adversaries and allies that President Trump means what he says. He says the president gave Iran's leader every opportunity to make a deal, but Iran refused to commit to a nuclear disarmament agreement. President Trump has been consistent and clear that a nuclear-armed Iran will not be tolerated. That posture has now been enforced with strength, precision, and clarity. He says the president's decisive action prevents the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, which chants death to America, from obtaining the most lethal weapon on the planet. This is America First policy in action. He says, God bless our brave men and women in uniform, the most lethal fighting force on the planet, as we pray for their safe return home. May God bless America. Johnson goes on to say this, that the president made the right call and did what he needed to do. Leaders in Congress were aware of the urgency of the situation, and the commander-in-chief evaluated that the imminent danger outweighed the time it would take for Congress to act. The world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, which chants death to America, simply could not be allowed the opportunity to obtain and use nuclear weapons. The president fully respects the Article I power of Congress, and tonight's necessary, limited, and targeted strike follows the history and tradition of similar military actions under presidents of both parties. So you see there, Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, let's go back to Capitol Hill. He's kind of trying to get ahead of this question on whether or not Congress should have authorized this strike via a vote in the House and the Senate first. And you see him there doing it in that statement, saying this: the president fully respects Article I power of Congress, saying tonight's necessary, limited, and targeted strike follows the history and tradition of similar military actions under presidents of both parties. So in the next couple of days, you're going to hear this a lot on Capitol Hill, especially from Democrats who want a vote on the authorization of these strikes now, retroactively to take place. You're also going to hear it from some Republicans, like the likes of Tom Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and others. All right, more Republican reaction as well. Take a look at this. Senator Roger Wicker there. Republican of Mississippi. He's the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee.
Super room, drama free, absolutely no trolling.
And correct
there you go. Thank you.
The existential threat posed by the Iranian regime. We now have very serious choices ahead to provide security for our citizens and our allies and stability for the Middle East. He says, well done to our military personnel. You're the best. All right, so Andrew Kraft back here. Thank you so much for being with us as we approach the bottom of the hour. We're, like I said, going all night with our coverage here of this historic moment, uncertain moment, as the United States, for the very first time, has struck targets inside the country of Iran. You know, the U.S. has a very long and complicated relationship with the Islamic Republic of Iran, especially at the outset in 1979 when the fall and deposition of the Shah of Iran. We played you some of the sound from the former crown prince of Iran, the son of the Shah, Reza Pahlavi. He's been all over social media and on cable just last week, saying this is a new moment for Iran. Iran needs a new leader, saying if push comes to shove, if he were to be that leader, he would step into some type of transitional role. So a lot of history is really coming to the fore over the last almost 50 years of U.S.-Iranian relations. And of course, you know what happened in 1979, the taking of 52 American hostages at the U.S. Embassy in Tehran. They were held for more than 400 days. They were released January the 20th, 1981, upon the inauguration of President Ronald Reagan.
I guess we should have known it was coming. Hi, Jill.
This entire conflict tonight, and so I had to mention it as well, including our relationship with Israel. President Trump and Bibi Netanyahu spoke on the phone just today. I'm not entirely sure if it was before or after the strikes took place, but we have live pictures in Jerusalem. Take a look at these here. We also have a message in from the Israeli leader, Benjamin Netanyahu, thanking President Trump.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities
on the boss.
The awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond. And peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance.
Two evil bullies.
Faith.
All right, that was the message there from the Israeli Prime Minister. Also, we have a message from the President of Israel, Isaac Herzog. Take a look at this. Herzog says, in the pages of human history, that this is a moment when the principles of liberty, responsibility, and security triumphed. And Herzog and Netanyahu with a message of thanks to the President and to the United States here. In the meantime, remember, we've been relying so heavily on our colleagues at Fox, including reporter and correspondent Jennifer Griffin, reporter and correspondent as well, Trey Yingst filing this report at the very outset of the strikes.
Nice.
Let's watch.
Yeah, Brett, good evening. This has been the talk of Israel for the past several days as the country waited to see if the Americans would get directly involved in the conflict. And even up in the last few hours, I was talking with current and former sources trying to get an understanding of when this might happen. And at 1:55 local time, one source said, rumors, Trump gave the word, supposed to be happening now. We were working on tracking it down, and the president taking to Truth Social to say the Americans did indeed strike 3 separate Iranian nuclear facilities, including the Fordow nuclear facility deep underground outside of the of Tehran. The bottom line here is that people are talking about enrichment. They understand that this decision was made because the Iranians were increasing their uranium enrichment capabilities and increasing the purity closer and closer to weapons-grade material. And the concern was that the Iranian regime was just weeks away.
Please come in hitting the like button.
A nuclear bomb.
Double tap your screen.
Over the past 9 days, the country has the ability to strike major population centers here in Israel with ballistic missiles. So you can imagine that having a nuclear warhead that could ultimately be attached to a ballistic missile would clearly be a direct threat to the Jewish state. And that was why the Israelis said that they made the decision to start these strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities and against top IRGC officials. And clearly tonight, President Trump ordering these strikes against the Iranian regime's program because there was no off-ramp for diplomacy at this point. And so this is a historic moment in the Middle East tonight, and again, an opportunity for the region, as the president laid out in his statement, for peace in the future, because this is a region that understands peace through strength.
Okay, so the report there by Trey Yings on with special report anchor Brett Baer. So in the meantime, we're at the bottom of the hour, and I think it's safe to take a quick commercial break.
Hey,
Let's catch our
Richard.
breath here. A lot of reporting, though, to get to. We'll get it to you when we come back. And welcome back here to Live Now from Fox. I'm Andrew Kraft. Thanks for being with us here. So we've got a lot more reporting to get to as we continue to monitor this extremely historic night in not only U.S. history, but in the history of the Middle East here. We have a live picture there over the skies of Tel Aviv. It's about 7:30 on a very early Sunday morning. We're going to leave that up. I want to just read out to you from the Associated Press because we're hearing from Iranian officials, I believe the highest ranking Iranian official we've heard from since this all happened. The Iranian foreign minister, his name is Abbas Araghchi, says on X that Tehran, quote, reserves all options to retaliate. Now, remember, I just said this. He's first ranking official in the kind of Iranian governance structure to comment on the strikes on Isfahan, Fordo, and Natanz. He wrote this: "The events this morning are outrageous and will have everlasting consequences." Oh, we have the tweet here. Here we go. So this is Abbas Araghchi, who, remember, we showed you speaking in Geneva just yesterday after he met with his counterparts from the EU, Britain, France, and Germany. Talks in Geneva yielded no progress, no breakthroughs on diplomacy, and you know how the rest of the story goes. But he said this: the United States, a permanent member of the United Nations Security
Mike,
Council,
what you mean?
has committed
The
a grave
Mike,
violation
God
of the UN
approved
Charter,
strikes.
international law, and the NPT by attacking Iran's peaceful nuclear installations. He says the events this morning are outrageous, everlasting consequences there.
He just
So
wanted to go down
as well. Now, the NPT, if you don't know, that's the
in the
Treaty on the
books.
Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons that the United States, I believe, is a party to. So, Abbas Araghchi, the Iranian foreign minister, calling out the United States. That's Iran's top diplomat, warning that U.S. attacks will have everlasting consequences, and Tehran reserves all options to retaliate. Now, the Associated Press is reporting this, that a semi-official news agency in Iran has published an account attack on Fordo, quoting one of its reporters. Now, this news agency in Iran is known as F0RCE. It is believed to be close to Iran's paramilitary rebel guard, so take it with a grain of salt. Said its reporter heard anti-aircraft fire around 2:05 a.m. local time. The reporter heard explosions 2 minutes later. At around 2:35 in the morning, I arrived near the Matab recreational complex. At that moment, amid the air defense activity, flames suddenly erupted from the direction of. Simultaneously with the flames, a faint trail of smoke and a significant amount of dust rose in the area, F0RCE quoted the reporter as saying. It offered no photos or video showing the attack. So, just recounting what the Associated Press is reporting, kind of echoing this account from a semi-official news agency within Iran. And that news agency's reporter recounted what he saw, what he heard, very early in the morning. So let's go back out live to our shots there in and around Israel. There, live in Tel Aviv, you notice the camera just panned up to focus more on the sky. I'll tell you why. Because Israel's military says it has identified missiles launched from Iran toward the territory
Hi, Peace
of Israel.
Gems. Hey, thank you.
To go to shelters and protected areas and remain
Lord
there
cover us, you right.
until further notice. So that's a live picture there over Tel Aviv. This is a live picture over Jerusalem. If we could put up that post on Israeli flights in and out of the country. From what we understand, from what is being reported, the airspace over Israel essentially is now closed and has been for some time. I want to put this up here. Take a look at this. Aisha Hasni, our friend and colleague there, she covers Capitol Hill for Fox. She says this in her reporting: Israel has closed airspace to incoming and outgoing flights. Okay, so want to take this shot yet again. You see the camera posing and positioning up into the sky. It's about 7:40 in the morning, very early Sunday morning there in Israel. We're only showing you this because Israel's military says it has identified missiles launched from Iran toward the territory of Israel. And the public has been instructed to go to shelters and protected areas and remain there until further notice. Now, usually I'm on the desk when this shot that we have is not daylight, it's nighttime, and you can better see how some of the missile defense systems, like the Iron Dome, intercept these Iranian barrages. So in the daytime, it'll be a little harder to see that. And I'm not guaranteeing that we're going to see that right now. That is just what's being reported. Also, our colleague Trey Yingst confirming this, saying that there are incoming missile alerts. Now, one of the questions I had asked some of our experts was, will Iran take this out only on Israel? Meaning, President Trump has threatened even more greater force against Iran if they retaliate. So what does Iran do? Does Iran just give it to Israel in lieu of attacking U.S. interests and assets? That's a question I have for experts that I think we're going to have to be asking ourselves throughout the course of the next day. The Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, saying sirens are sounding across Israel due to an Iranian missile launch. Let's see if we can hear that on this shot that we have in Tel Aviv. Okay, so you can't hear that. What you can hear are the chirping of birds on a Sunday. Tranquil, peaceful, yet so many Israelis are under threat, high alert due to this constant barrage of Iranian ballistic missiles and drones that they have been volleying and levying against each other for the better part of more than a week now. Some of our experts have said, would there be a pause from Israel striking Iran after what the United States did tonight? And it seems like that is the case.
Why some people don't understand
because we're not getting any reports of Israel striking targets inside Iran. What we're getting right now is sirens sounding across Israel due to Iran launching missiles at Israel. So we also have a live picture in Jerusalem. You know, Israel is not a large country by any means. About 10 million people. It's a small blip in the Middle East. And it is very far from Iran and vice versa. Let's listen to if we can see or hear anything in this shot over Jerusalem. No audio on that, unfortunately. I'm trying to see if we can hear any of the sirens sounding. Let's just keep this up, though, over Tel Aviv. That is why, presumably, the camera is looking up at the sky to see whether or not it can catch any of the missile defense systems Israel has to intercept some of these. Okay, you can kind of see, look at that. You can kind of see
you can't see nothing.
Kind of the trail there of the Iron Dome. I know it's very difficult to see because of the cloud cover, but smack dab in the middle of your screen, you can see the trail of the Iron Dome missile interceptors there. I believe that's what I'm watching. Having seen this many, many times, let's see yet again if we can hear anything on this.
Oh, I heard it.
Okay, so you heard there are multiple loud explosions over the skies of Tel Aviv right now. You know, the Iron Dome and other missile defense systems that Israel uses. Okay, you can hear the sirens now. This is another shot that we have. And you can see kind of the missile interceptor residue in the air. Take a look at that.
Do you think Iran will strike the U.S. back? Hey, exclusive.
All right, so you heard those sirens there sounding all across Tel Aviv. We have yet another vantage point in the sky over Tel Aviv as well. So this is what we got about, 5 minutes ago? Israel's military is saying it has identified missiles launched from Iran toward Israel, and that the public has been instructed to go to shelters.
I hope if they strike back, they strike back at the White House.
Notice, it is about 7:45
I hate to say that.
Very early Sunday morning
Leave us
Israelis
alone.
are used to this. They're not used to the frequency of it, but they are used to it. And remember, these Israeli air defense systems and missile interceptors, they're extremely accurate, but they're not perfect. And we've seen some of the devastation that some of these Iranian strikes have caused to civilian sites, military sites, you name it, runs the gamut. And scores of Israelis have been killed in these. Let's keep listening here. All right, we have a better kind of grade there, so you can maybe make out some of the interceptions of the Iranian drones and missiles here. Let's keep listening.
I don't see nothing. Please double tap the screen on your phone just like that, or hit the thumbs up on your computer. Do y'all see anything in the sky?
All right, Andrew Kraft back here. If you're just coming on and you're wondering why we're looking at the sky over Tel Aviv in Israel, it's because Iran is launching a missile and drone barrage right now. You heard the sirens sounding. We have yet another vantage point. Our camera is going to pan down over Tel Aviv. Let's take that. Now, I'm not entirely sure if what we're just looking at is cloud cover or some of the smoke that's coming up from the missile interceptors, like many systems that Israel uses. It's not just the Iron Dome system. It's also the Arrow system. It's also the David Sling is another major missile defense system that is deployed by Israel. Also, the United States is stepping up evacuation flights for American citizens from Israel to Europe and is continuing to draw down its staff at diplomatic missions in Iraq as fears of Iranian retaliation against U.S. interests in the Middle East grow. So even before those airstrikes were announced by President Trump tonight, the U.S. Embassy in Jerusalem announced the start of evacuation flights for American civilians from Israel. 67 American citizens left Israel on 2 government flights bound for Athens on Saturday, and 4 more evacuation flights to Athens were planned for Sunday. That's according to an internal.
Well, then why would Michael? Why is Trump saying if there's any retaliation in the U.S., it's going to be met with force? They must have something.
Several hundred Jewish young people who had been visiting Israel on an organized tour known as Birthright. They arrived in Cyprus, according to that very same document. So in the meantime, you're taking a live now look there over Tel Aviv on a very early Sunday morning. Now, we had a shot there over Jerusalem. We didn't have any audio in this over Jerusalem, and so we were not entirely sure if those sirens are sounding in Jerusalem as well. But that was the message from Israeli officials, especially and including the IDF, saying that a short while ago, the IDF identified missiles launched from Iran toward the territory of the state of Israel, and that defensive systems are operating to intercept the threat, saying that upon receiving an alert, the public is
right now 59% says no.
Further notice. So let's go back to Tel Aviv there. Let's keep listening. We also have another live vantage point. Let's take this. Okay, you can better see there some of the residue of some of the missile interceptors there. Let's listen to this shot. Okay, just wanted to come on camera here and put our two vantage points over the skies of Tel Aviv up as we are learning that, according to the IDF, Iran is launching some type of missile or drone barrage at sites across Israeli territory. And take a look at this. You see there in the upper right hand of your screen, that was Jerusalem. That was not Tel Aviv. And then below that is Tel Aviv here. So I was mistaken there. We were only looking at the blue sky, so I was not entirely sure whether or not this shot was Jerusalem or Tel Aviv. Of course, you know it's Jerusalem. You see there the Temple Mount, the Western Wall, the Al-Aqsa there in the distance. And you saw some of the strains in the early morning blue Sunday sky as so many Israelis waking up to the sound of alarms and sirens of yet more threats to them in the air. Let's keep listening. So we have this shot there over Jerusalem. We still have this shot there over Tel Aviv in Israel. Let's listen to this. So in the meantime, we're going to keep monitoring some of these vantage points live over the skies of Israel. So as you would imagine, this has been of a piece over the last more than 7 days going on. Iran to Israel, Israel to Iran, the tit for tat, trading blows, trading barbs, trading targets and explosions with drones, missiles. We don't know when that's going to end. We thought, and just for the record, right now, Iran is attacking Israel with some
Hey,
of these.
Vicky.
Israel is not attacking Iran at the moment. In retaliation, you never know. But the question on so many of our minds is this: what is the Iranian retaliation going to be against the United States for what President Trump authorized tonight, striking these nuclear facilities, 3 of them in Iran? Take a look at them. We have them. The Isfahan facility, the Natanz facility, and the Fordow facility. That's the question for U.S. assets, troops, citizens in the region, and many are wondering what the response is going to be. All right, I'm Andrew Kraft. That's going to do it for my coverage here on Live Now from Fox. We also have some new video, according to our colleague Trey Yanks. I want to put this up. This is a video as well of what he is experiencing right now in Israel as we speak. He just filed this report on social. It's brief. Let's watch.
Iranians have just launched a large-scale ballistic missile attack against Israel following those American strikes overnight that targeted Iran's nuclear facilities. We've heard massive explosions amid interceptions overhead. Initially, we were reporting outside. We've taken some cover here as this attack continues. So far, it's been in 2 waves targeting Tel Aviv. 2 sirens sounded, and some really, really large interceptions that are shaking the entire building that we are in. There are no reports yet of impacts, but it's very early. We have to wait and see what extra information that we can gather. But again, the latest information that I have right now, Iran has launched another large ballistic missile attack against Israel. Sirens are sounding across this country. Jerusalem to Tel Aviv, there are currently millions of people in bomb shelters taking cover as this fire continues from Iran. There are also reports of sirens sounding in neighboring Jordan as these missiles fly overhead. We'll keep you posted as we get more information.
And as will we. We'll keep you posted when we get more information. Trey Yanks, of course, an incredible reporter, incredible resource.
Please double tap the screen.
In Israel with that update. We've been showing you these scenes out of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem as this yet another iteration of the attack by Iran is taking place right now, live as we speak. Like I said, though, that's going to do it for my lifetime up here on the Live Now desk. It's been a privilege and a pleasure bringing you history in the making as it unfolds in real time, live, raw, and uninterrupted here on Live Now from Fox. We're not going anywhere. We're not done tonight. My colleague there in Orlando, digital journalist Gine Francine, she has you covered. She takes it from here after this quick commercial break. Have a good night.
Okay, so while we waiting on that to come back. I want to hear him.
So I also want to.
President. First, we offer overnight boarding. Your pet will stay overnight in your sitter's home and not only be treated like part of the family, but President of the United States walking away from the podium there where he had been flanked by the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor Marco Rubio, along with Secretary of Defense and his Vice President announcing.
This Sunday, it's June 22nd. I'm Jeannie Francine here with you for the next few hours to continue with this breaking news. We continue to follow team coverage around the clock. I'm coming on after my colleague Andrew Kraft, Austin Westfall before him. Just stellar jobs by my team as we work to keep you informed. A lot of unanswered questions.
Thank you, exclusive. War has always been a motive for weak ass club and the attention and to be able to go down in history, go in the books.
That sirens.
I hope he go down in the books and they take his ass in on some of his felonies.
Over at the Associated Press report, Israel's
military
says it has identified missiles launched from Iran toward the territory.
Any type of havoc, he down for any type of havoc, any type of power move.
Protected areas. And
never peace.
Until further notice.
Always a power move.
This is a very
narcissist move. A narcissistic move.
On the heels of President Donald Trump
Always.
joining Israel in its campaign against Iran in the Middle East. The commander-in-chief ordering U.S. military strikes on 3 major Iranian nuclear sites.
Oh, it was a success. It was awesome. Everything went up in flames. It had, you know.
Israel.
Ugh.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities
Oh,
have
Lord,
been
did I speak
completely
his
and
ass
totally
up?
obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace.
This has been the talk of Israel for the past several days as the country waited to see if the Americans would get directly involved in the conflict. And even up in the last few hours, I was talking with current and former sources, trying to get an understanding of when this might happen. And at 1:55 local time, one source said, rumors, Trump gave the word, supposed to be happening now. We were working on tracking it down, and the
This will
president
make America
taking it
look
through
bad
to say the Americans
with
did
all the
indeed
casualties.
strike 3 separate Iranian nuclear facilities, including the Fordow nuclear facility deep underground outside of the Iranian capital of Tehran. The bottom line here is that people are talking about enrichment. They understand that this decision was made because the Iranians were increasing their uranium enrichment capabilities and increasing the purity closer and closer to weapons-grade material. And the concern was that the Iranian regime was just weeks away from being able to build a nuclear bomb. We've seen over the past 9 days, the country has the ability to strike major population centers here in Israel with ballistic missiles. So you can imagine that having a nuclear warhead that could ultimately be attached to a ballistic missile would clearly be a direct threat to the Jewish state. And that's why the Israelis said that they made the decision to start these strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities and against top IRGC officials. And clearly tonight, President Trump ordering these strikes against the Iranian regime's nuclear program because there was no off-ramp for diplomacy at this point. And so this is a historic moment in the Middle East tonight, and again, an opportunity for the region, as the president laid out in his statement, for peace in the future, because this is a region that understands peace through strength.
Iran's key nuclear...
All right, so that was Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst there with the very latest details from Tel Aviv, Israel this Sunday morning. If you're just now tuning in, transitioning to bring you back stateside, giving you a live look at the White House as we have hit the 1 o'clock hour here on the East Coast. We do know that President Donald Trump did give a press conference following this breaking news that we did learn. It happened around 10 o'clock Saturday evening. If you were asleep, if you were at work, if you weren't able to see that, I want to play those remarks in full for you now.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime.
So this hoe right here thinks she wants to come over here and try to troll somebody.
Those names for years as they built a horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was
so let me go ahead and mark this as harassment. Put them people in your life. Yeah. If you come over here with that harassment, I'm going to report you.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely
put you on blast and put you under investigation.
Must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
Just so you know, I'm putting your asses on blast. I am creating paper trails. She told you no trolling. So now you're harassing me.
Off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their. So many.
Y'all say bye to Roxy. I'm creating paper trails if you come over here harassing me with these bogus ass troll ass pages. We said no trolling. You have been warned. That's trolling is not entertainment.
Ever worked before.
That's kitty shit.
A long way to erasing this.
They go play with your mama.
I want to thank
the hoe that raised you
for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight, and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many members of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
But I hope you hit the like button before I kick you out. Hi, Deborah.
General, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack.
Hi, Crystal.
With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, and we love our great military. Protect
we
them.
Love you, God.
God bless
my goodness.
the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I played in full the very latest from U.S.
Lord.
President Donald Trump, and behind him was J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Hegseth as he gave those remarks. A lot of unanswered questions this morning, as this is a very fluid situation. But we want to hear from you as we have experts joining us throughout these early morning hours. What questions do you have about the U.S. striking Iran? Let us know what those questions are. All you have to do is scan that QR code on your screen or go to livenowfox.com. Connect, click on that Ask Now tab, and there you can upload your questions. As we continue with none other than Ken Gray. He's a terrorism and homeland security expert with the University of New Haven, also a distinguished lecturer. Ken, good morning to you. Always a pleasure having you join us here on the show. Thank you for joining us at a moment's notice for this breaking news.
Good morning, Janae. Glad to be with you.
Glad to have you. So, Ken, first, I would love for you to provide some perspective. How did we get to this point? We look back years ago when October 7th happened, the latest with Israel and Hamas. It happened that tragic day at that music festival. We also have seen what's happened out in Lebanon with Hezbollah. We've seen what's happened with the Yemen Houthi rebels. But this entire time, Iran has been the backbone for all of these terroristic organizations, people saying it was a matter of time.
Mike, your mama's ghetto as fuck.
Reared its head.
And you ugly. And your breath stink. You look like shit
You're
in the face.
Right that the entire conflict that we've experienced here and that Israel has been experiencing has been at the direction of Iran. Iran has
y'all say by the mic, shit face.
The Middle East there. It runs the Hezbollah there in Lebanon. It was working with forces within Syria. It was supporting Hamas there in the Gaza Strip, and it has been supporting the activities of the Houthis as far as their actions on controlling shipping throughout this area. And so Iran has been pulling the strings of the puppets throughout this region here, but rarely did it actually take action on its own. We did have a couple of times, though, when they took action. There were two different periods, one with the death of the head of Hezbollah. Iran turned around and launched a ballistic missile attacks on Israel directly, and then a second attack by Iran on Israel directly. But now we're at a point where Israel has systematically handled the proxies. Hamas really is now powerless within the Gaza Strip and is unable to join in on this fight. Hezbollah, with the attack, with the pager attack, has taken out so many of the Hezbollah forces there, and then taken out their leader, has made Hezbollah into a powerless group. They're not really able to do anything right now against Israel. Assad is no longer in control of Syria, so Iran no longer has the ability to supply Hezbollah with weapons through Syria like they were before with the fall of Assad. And the Houthis have been beaten up on because of their attacks on shipping on several different occasions, reached an agreement with the United States not to attack U.S. forces, but it still occasionally launches a ballistic missile towards Israel. And the Houthis really are not able to do much on their own at this point. So Iran now it finds itself directly confronting Israel instead of having to work through its proxies.
And thank you so much for that detailed breakdown, providing that perspective, explaining how we got to this point. So let's fast forward to today. Just hours ago, the commander-in-chief ordering U.S. military strikes on 3 major Iranian nuclear sites is happening Saturday. And then right now, sirens going off in Tel Aviv, Israel for incoming missiles. We do know that Israel is an ally to the U.S., so if the U.S. does decide to do something, Israel could be retaliated against, but also vice versa, correct?
Thank you, Space Cadet.
What happened today as President Donald Trump did order these strikes on 3 major Iranian nuclear sites. Throughout this entire conversation, nuclear energy, nuclear weapons has been at the forefront.
Before I get to what happened today, let me back up just a little bit, in that we are now into, I think, day 9 of the this exchange between Israel and Iran directly. And so Israel had gotten to the point where Iran was enriching nuclear material, enriching uranium with their centrifuges, and was believed to finally be within just a few days of further enrichment to have enough uranium to be able to make 9 nuclear weapons. And Israel finally reached that threshold point where they felt compelled that they had to act now. And so they put in effect the Operation Rising Lion. And with that operation, they started striking against Iran, but not only their nuclear weapons capability or enrichment capability, but also Israel was attacking their ballistic missile production capabilities. The Iran launching these waves of attack against Israel with ballistic missiles. The Israeli air defense system comprised of the Arrow 2, the Arrow, David Sling, and the Iron Dome was able to handle these barrages of ballistic missiles. About 10% were actually getting through that layered defense system. But if Iran were to increase their ballistic missile production, which is what they were attempting to do, this air defense system would not be able to handle an increased number of ballistic missiles coming in. So Israel finally felt that they had to move, and they had to move now. And so 9 days ago, they launched their attack of Operation Rising Lion to strike at both the uranium enrichment facilities and against the ballistic missile production facilities. With the nuclear production facilities, there were about 14 different sites that had to be taken.
Okay, so we need to pause for y'all to get the likes up. I need 20 likes. Double tap your screen on your phone, like, you know, just double tap it twice, right? Get the thumbs up on your phone. I mean, on your laptop or your tablet. But I need to get the likes up. Come on.
Out if you were going to take out their nuclear weapons production capability. And with those 14 different sites, there were 3 sites, or one site really, that absolutely could not be taken out with the Israeli capabilities, and that was Ferdo.
This means that we could possibly really be at war if they respond, and it was not war, it was not fight. But he complained about helping other countries.
They did not have a platform.
Like that wasn't our responsibility. But here he go doing exactly. He a hypocrite, and just ain't no way around it. He said he wasn't gonna get in no wars and wasn't gonna start none, and it's gonna be war free.
Weapons.
Well, he lied again.
Capability of Iran. They needed to have
what they say earlier. Every time he opened his mouth, it's a lie.
Find some other way to take that.
A lie comes out.
Because denying,
he is not a man of his word.
Access to that area. The United States.
That's my opinion.
A weapon, the GBU-57 mass ordnance penetrator, which is a weapon that has to be. I just kind of think that this is a camouflage for something else. The United States sent
something else.
B-2s into the area here to drop ordnance, the GBU-57s onto the Ferdo nuclear facility.
Elon Musk did threaten him last month that his name was going to come up on that Epstein's list. I don't know. Big Joe.
The other 2 sites
what's his name?
The United States took out tonight was
Diddy.
Isfahan,
all these other people names is coming up, popping up. It may be a federal government sweep. I don't know, but this right here didn't have nothing to do with us. And Congress did not approve it.
Centrifuge production.
This is a power struggle,
making the centrifuge
or a cover up for something else.
The other 2 sites to enrich uranium. The other 2 facilities, Isfahan and Natanz, were not taken out by the B-2s. They were taken out by Tomahawk missiles launched from a submarine about 400 miles away. And so Tomahawk missiles came in, took out those 2 sites. The B-2s dropped the GBU-57s onto Ferdo, taking that out. And so the United States was able to complete the mission for Operation Rising Lion by allowing Israel to take out all 14 sites.
Well, Ken, as we are discussing nuclear capabilities, I did mention off the top of this interview that the viewers might have some questions for you. We are already getting some in. I want to transition the screen to show you our first question of the hour. It comes out of Arlington from the viewers named. It said, why does Iran want a nuclear weapon? This has been a question that viewers across the country, nationally, internationally, have been wanting to know, Ken.
So if you have a nuclear weapon, then you can use that as an ability to force people to reconsider any type of kinetic attacks on you. That is, look at the exchanges between Israel and Iran. If Iran had a nuclear weapon at this time, do you think that they would allow Israel to attack them without threatening to use that nuclear weapon on Israel? In fact, Iran has been saying that that they were going to destroy Israel. They've been talking about destroying Israel ever since 1979. They've been talking about destroying Israel. Death to Israel, death to America. And so if they had a nuclear weapon, they would almost assuredly use it against Israel. But in addition to the potential of using it against Israel, they also could use it as a defense against any type of activity against them, because they could always threaten to use that nuclear weapon. So, you know, there are only a few countries that are part of the nuclear weapons group. President Trump has said repeatedly that that Iran should not be allowed to join this community of having nuclear weapons, and so he took action tonight to ensure that they would not be able to do so.
And thank you for answering that question. And following what you just said, this is pretty much a good follow-up question. Riley out of Beaverton is asking early this morning, given the escalating tensions, what are the main strategic or political factors preventing Iran from launching a direct military invasion of Israel? Very interesting question. As we know, right here in the U.S., Congress has not minced words after the commander-in-chief made the decision to strike the Iranian nuclear facilities.
Right. Iran is some distance away from Israel, so they would not be able to do a land invasion against Israel without crossing through a number of different countries. Iran is a fortress country in that they have a mountain range to the west, mountain range to the north, a mountain range to the east. They find themselves sitting there on the Persian Gulf. And so in reality, while they have an army, they have a military, and also 2 deserts within Iran also. So they really have to rely upon their Air Force, which they have a limited air capability, their missiles. So they do have both ballistic missiles and drones, and they have a relatively small Navy. I think Israel has already taken some action against their naval forces. And so in reality, missiles really are their number one means of fighting. But they also have, the IRGC is known for its ability to assist proxies to carry out attacks. So they had relied heavily upon their proxies. But as I went through earlier, most of their proxies are incapable of assisting them at this point. They also have a cyber attack capability. I'm really surprised that we have not seen more from their cyber attack capabilities. They have used it in the past for harassment purposes, but they have been relatively quiet on the cyber front in their actions against either Israel or the United States. That is something we will potentially see here during the coming hours is a potential attack by cyber. The other thing is IRGC is considered to be the pros as far as terrorism goes. And so the possibility of having asymmetric warfare, of having terrorist attacks against U.S. interests or Israeli interests around the world, such as embassies. The U.S. has a number of military assets staged throughout the Middle East. We have them in Bahrain, we have them in Qatar, we have them elsewhere there in the Middle East. And those forces could be subject to attack there locally. And we've had open borders here in the United States until recently, and IRGC sleeper cells could have been coming into the country. They've always believed, we've thought that they've had IRGC sleeper cells here in the United States that could be activated at a time of war with the United States. And we will see whether or not they actually activate those sleeper cells and they take action here on the ground. But it doesn't have to be inside the country. It could be against our assets outside the country. So U.S. embassies, American businesses, American tourists, those would all be subject to attack by sleeper cells anywhere in the world instead of right here at home. 9/11, though, when we had similar concerns that we were going to be attacked, everybody in the United States and the intelligence community thought the attack was going to be overseas because that's what we had had in the past. 9/11 showed that that the attack could come here within the country. Same thing now, is that IRGC sleeper cells could attack us here in the country here instead of against our resources overseas.
Yeah, well, Ken, speaking of areas that are prone to attack, I want to share this with you. This live feed just now coming in, you know, I did mention that happening right now, sirens in Tel Aviv, Israel are going off for incoming missiles. If you don't mind, Ken, I'm going to pot up the audio so we can listen into what's going on. I am learning, this is Central Israel, Tel Aviv, Israel. Israeli police and rescue teams are at this site that they say was just hit in an Iranian missile attack. Let's listen in together. All right, so Ken, we can hear and see a lot of chaos there on the ground as this Iranian missile attack just happened in Tel Aviv. We see Israeli police there, rescue teams, neighboring residents trying to figure out what's going on. This does raise that issue that you mentioned. Obviously, Israel in close proximity to Iran. If the U.S. does something, Israel will pay. But also, we've seen how conflict with Israel will resort in the U.S. paying. We saw that in real time with those Gaza war protests right here on U.S. college campuses and universities. Many of the viewers wanting to know, does the U.S. need to be on high alert because of these strikes that did happen against Iran from the U.S.? What is your response as a homeland security expert and terrorism expert?
Absolutely. So that's my biggest concern, is that of terrorist attack here in the United States by sleeper cells. You know, and we've been concerned about the fact that sleeper cells supposedly have been here in the United States for years, for decades. And so they may get activated, and with all the traffic across our southwest border into the United States, with us having no knowledge of who these people were coming into the country, it's quite possible that some of the people that came into the country illegally could be members of IRGC sleeper cell to wait to carry out actions. I'd like to point out that with the activity we see on the screen right now, is that the Iranians had been 9 days ago launching waves of missiles that were 50 to 100 missiles at a time, and that only 10% were getting through it to the ground. Well, during this attack, there's very few missiles that were launched on this, and that's because Israel has been hitting their ballistic missile launching capabilities. They've been taking out launchers, and while Iran still has plenty of missiles, what they don't have is plenty of ballistic missile launchers, and consequently, they can't launch the barrage that they had at the beginning of this conflict with Israel, because Israel has taken out their launchers. So it's not a matter of how many missiles they have, it's how many ballistic missile launchers they have at this point.
Ken Gray, thank you so much for joining us at a moment's notice for this breaking perspective and expertise. Definitely appreciated as we saw the sights and heard the sounds. Also, you eloquently answered those viewer questions. We appreciate you. I know we'll be checking in with you probably later on today and in the coming days. I hope you have a great rest of your evening.
Thank you.
And morning, because we know it is 1:27 in the morning. Thank you so much, Ken.
Thank you.
I'm Gina. We are going to step aside for a brief 2-minute commercial break, but don't go anywhere. More breaking news to dissect. We do continue to get your viewer questions in real time. We will get those answered with an expert right after the break.
Iran earlier today. Completely obliterated. Now, he did seem in those remarks not to completely close the door on further military action. He thanked the U.S. military and said that he hopes that their services won't be needed again. And he said all of this was meant to erase the nuclear threat posed by Iran. To be clear, U.S. agents' assessment has been that Iran was not yet building a nuclear weapon, but that they had been enriching nuclear fuel at worrisome levels. The international community had high degree of outcry on that point just a few weeks ago. In Vienna, you had the Israeli strikes come the following day after that, in the midst of what had been a diplomatic effort by President Trump and his envoy, Steve Witkoff, to negotiate with Iran to get them to limit their nuclear program. Those did not result in an agreement, though up until today, I am told, the U.S. was trying to reach out. Yet, just a few hours ago, we saw these strikes carried out. I want to go over to the Pentagon now, where our Charlie Daggett is. And apparently, Charlie, you'll be there early tomorrow, since the president just said there will be an 8 a.m. Pentagon press conference where he will detail these strikes. The Secretary of Defense will. What do we know at this hour? I know Iran is acknowledging and saying that these strikes happened, but that it will not end their nuclear program.
Yeah, well, Margaret, we await that briefing tomorrow. We have had very few briefings here at the Pentagon, so it'll be interesting to see how much detail is shared there. But as it was already shared, 6 bunker busters on Fordow, that would have meant at least 3 of the B-2 bombers that we've already discussed, where they came from, when they were deployed. We were talking earlier today about whether they went from Whiteman, whether they were going to Guam. Maybe it was a head pump, maybe it was a head shake of where this was going to go and when it was going to happen. Something like 30 Tomahawk missiles at 2 other sites there. They've been called massive precision strikes. I think what we need to know, and I'm not sure whether that is knowable at this point, is how damaging that was.
Once launched, this dental appliance received an explosive response and quickly became popular. Let's take a look at how practical it is. It can perfectly restore your teeth with a secure fit that won't loosen. Made from patented silicone material, it suits all types of oral cavities and can easily bite into even hard fruits. You can brush your teeth thoroughly. It's very easy to use. Even beginners can wear it effortlessly and have white teeth in just 10 seconds. Whether you have missing teeth or have lost all your teeth, wearing this product solves all problems. Eating becomes easier than breathing. We offer a 14-day free trial, and if the product doesn't suit your oral cavity, you'll receive a full refund. Limited quantities available. Click the link to purchase. Don't miss out.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
We can look at the set of successful. Now there's satellites.
If the White House is to be believed, whether it crippled and entirely took out Iran's nuclear capability. At two other sites there, they've been called massive precision strikes. I think what we need to know, and I'm not sure whether that is knowable at this point, is how damaging that was. If the White House is to be believed, whether it crippled and entirely took out thing like from when they were deployed. We were talking earlier today about whether they went from Whiteman, whether they were going to Guam. Maybe it was a head pump, maybe it was a head shake of where this was going to go and when it was going to happen. Something like 30 Tomahawk missiles at two other sites there. They've been called massive precision strikes. I think what we need to know, and I'm not sure whether that is knowable at this point, is how damaging that was. If the White House is to be believed, whether it crippled and entirely took out Iran's nuclear capabilities at F0RCE and suffering. He's calling it spectacular success.
Like
but the other thing
U-2
about now
spy planes to look at these locations and see what the damage is. So that'll tell us whether this was successful. The other part of your question, well, we want to make sure that the efforts that were put forth are actually successful so that you don't have to go back and do it again.
Right.
Rob, thank you so much for that. And we are already getting viewer questions in as you are answering mine here on Live Now. Dyron wants to know, hasn't the U.S. sent troops to Iran, Israel? What is the U.S. plan for the potential war? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but if you could answer that to the best of your ability, please.
So the first part, boots on the ground.
Boots on the ground.
It's not going to put boots on the ground in the Israeli-Iran fight. And Israel, frankly, doesn't want to put its own boots on the ground in Iran unless it's
so why yeah.
last effort has to, in order to do things that it can't do from the air. This is not going to be a land warfare fight like you're seeing right now in Ukraine with Russia. In terms of the plans, the United States has plans that are on the shelf for all kinds of contingencies. And what happens is you pull the existing plan off the shelf, and then you look at it and see how much of the factors that are at play right now fit the plan. And the parts that don't,
are y'all able to hear?
Go in and modify the plan.
Can y'all hear?
So there's a set of war plans for the United States fighting Iran on the ground and in the air. And this is an in-the-air fight from the sea, because we had U.S. Navy ships also launching Tomahawk missiles, at which targets I'm not really sure, but they launched as well. I understand there's about 30 of them launched, as well as the Air Force and its bunker busters and what other munitions were dropped in order to take out these, or as we attempted to take out these three sites. Again, we don't know the battle damage assessment to know how much that was exactly true, what the president said.
Thank you so much for answering that, Rob. I want to share with you and the viewers the very latest from Israel Defense Forces just in on X. I want to read it. It says, sirens sounding across Israel due to another Iranian missile launch. If you want to know what that looks like, transitioning the screen again to give the viewers and yourself a live look. People wanting to know if Israel will pretty much get the ramifications of what the U.S. decided to do today. And if so, is that expected with the U.S. and Israel being allies?
Well, Israel will definitely be receiving some retaliatory strikes from the Iranians. But the concern now is there are 40,000 U.S. troops and civilian attached to the military or State Department in the vicinity of Iran and Israel in the Middle East. And the concern is those individuals being targeted. Remember the last time we had an issue like this where we took out Soleimani, the Iranian general, and Iranians retaliated against an American base, and we had several soldiers and airmen who were injured from concussion type injuries from the explosions. The issue, the concern is U.S. troops in the vicinity. That one of the things that has happened in order to deal with that was the number of U.S. troops that were flooding into the area. So there's two naval battle groups there right now with aircraft that can perform strike missions. A third one's on the way, and there was a group of Air Force aircraft that had been forward deployed to all kinds of places in the Middle East, in the vicinity of the Middle East and Europe that could strike in response to any Iranian or Iranian proxy actions. And that's the other issue here, is the proxies of Iran that exist. Now, Ken talked to you a little bit a while ago about the dismantling of Hezbollah and Hamas, so that they are less of a threat, and the Houthis as well in Yemen are less of a threat. But those aren't the only ones. There are many in Iraq who are also threats. There are still some left in Syria that could also be threats to U.S. troops in the area. So the issue is not just, are they going to attack Israel? The issue is, what vulnerabilities do we now have in the vicinity based on our actions?
Well, as you say that, Rob, and discuss the threats, I am seeing that Israeli officials are about to speak to the media. If you don't mind watching and listening into this with myself and the viewers, and then that way you can give expertise and dissect what those words may mean that everyday person might not understand with the military background. I'm going to change the screen now so we can listen in together.
Okay, can you please tell me what happened here this morning? As you can see behind me, we're in the center of Israel, central division of Israel. A missile fire hit right inside of the building complex behind me. We've already transported around 5 injured, still treating ear wounded around us. Thankfully, nothing that severe, but minutes after the blast was heard, we've already made our way on scene, and we're keep on treating. Even though we tell people, stay inside, listen to home front command, we have to make sure we can get out as fast as possible, so sadly we can't do that. Can you tell me around the country how many patients you do? I still don't know. As you can see, we're here live on the ground, boots on the ground. I don't know what's happening around us yet. What's your full name, please? Ori Lazarovich.
All right, Rob, so it seems like brief comments there, and I can only imagine what the mood and the emotion is in that area. You heard the officials say, they're telling people to stay inside to avoid the chaos, but then where they are staying is literally hit by a strike. He said then it's hard to get to them. Explain how that works, because obviously residents, locals in that area wanting to listen to what officials are saying by staying indoors, staying out of the way. But now that residential areas are being attacked, it seems counteractive.
Well, in Israel is a country where there are lots of bomb shelters inside buildings, underground hospitals, and they use them frequently. Unfortunately. And so staying inside and staying in those shelters is what the government wants people to do, so that the government forces not just the police and the army and the military, but medical folks, the fire people, the other public safety and emergency management folks can get to the scene of the action and stop the fires, address the wounded, shore up buildings that may be in damaged and in a state of collapse, so it could endanger other people or other structures. If you're in the street, they can't get there to do those things. So they want folks to be inside and out of the way so they can get these things done. But folks are curious, and folks are nervous. So they come outside, and they can be a hindrance to being able to get what you need to do in the emergency management structure after an attack.
Rob, I do want to get back to some of the viewer questions. A new one just coming in now, transitioning the screen. Benjamin asking this Sunday morning, what happens if the United States gets involved with this war? What will Russia do if the U.S. gets involved in this war? Very interesting questions, because a lot of viewers and people across the U.S. and even internationally have been looking at Russia and Korea, even China now, because of what's happened.
Well, the U.S. is already involved in this war. We've taken a unilateral action against Iran on the side of Israel. So if folks are worried about us being involved, stop worrying about it. We're involved.
We're involved.
It's already happened. There's certain international rules about what
we
you
at
can
war
do in terms of violence, one country versus another. Those rules are governed from the United Nations Charter. And the first important rule in the Charter is Article 2, Section 4, which says that you should not use force against territorial integrity or the political independence of another nation.
We at war.
Well, we just did that. So we're even violated Article 2.4.
Hey, big person.
Now, there are exceptions to Article 2.4. And the exceptions to Article 2.4, the big one is self-defense. Israel is arguing that its attacks on Iran are self-defense acts. Preemptive self-defense, I don't have to wait and be hit in order to stop from the aggressor from attacking me. But the issue with preemptive self-defense is, what do you really know? What's your intelligence? And is your intelligence good or is your intelligence bad? We had an issue where our intelligence turned out to be bad in the Iraq War. We thought the Iraqis were developing certain things that they were not. And we went into war. We had an issue with that in Yugoslavia, and we went to war there. And we got our hands spanked in both instances by international law because we preemptively went in. Now, 9/11 changed how we think about preemptive strikes, and we don't wait anymore. That's not a part of the American doctrine. We're not going to wait. We're going to go. And we'll take our smack on the hand if we have to later on, but we're not going to wait and be hit. 9/11 changed the game. We don't have the same self-defense and the Article 51 of the UN Charter is a self-defense charter. We don't have the same perspective that the Israelis had. The Israelis had been attacked.
Yep, we need to get prayed up.
By a proxy of Iran. So if you trace the line back, you can get back to Iran and people supporting Hamas and the attack that happened in October. And you can also trace the line to Iran supporting Hezbollah, who Israel attacked in a preemptive manner in Lebanon. And you can trace the line of Iran supporting the Houthis. So you have direct lines, and the Houthis are missiles at Tel Aviv into Israel since the war in Gaza started. So you have lots and lots of ties of Iran, which gets Israel into that self-defense box of Article 51, which is the exception. The United States doesn't have those boxes. We're not in that position. We can't make those claims. But if we were to say preemptively, as the president said, hey, we're not going to allow Iran to make a nuclear weapon, and they're weeks away. The problem with that statement is Iran has been weeks away from a nuclear weapon since the mid-1990s. And if you can go back, you can actually just pick up Netanyahu saying it every few years for 20 years. Now, maybe this time they were actually there. We don't know the intelligence, and we don't know what intelligence we use to make the decision to do the attack. I hope the intelligence was all.
Amanda, he's not worried about the people over there. He said if there's retaliation in the U.S., he ain't say nothing about the people over there in Iran. So that is so not true. He said retaliation against the people in the U.S. He don't care nothing about that over there.
So
it was a power move. Let's keep it real.
That affected
He ain't
his
protecting the people
mind
over there.
such that he
He
no
don't
longer
care. If
believes
he
his
was
own
protecting the
intelligence
people over there,
directly.
he wouldn't have sent them missiles. What do you
I know the
mean?
answers to that. I know some senators and congressmen are looking for the answers to that right now. So the second question about Russia. Russia has been an ally of Iran.
Who you talking to, Mary?
Russia urged us not to
Mary
take
Jo,
this
who you
action.
talking to?
But Russia's got its hands full
Before I
right
remove
now
you inappropriately,
with Ukraine.
who are you talking? Put a name on it.
And Russia's not
Oh,
going
okay.
to jump into
Yeah.
a fight, a actual
Okay.
kinetic physical fight. Now,
Say it
they'll do some
again in your
diplomatic
silent
things
voice.
and, behind the scenes
Say it again.
conversations and moves in that. But
Say
this
it now.
fight
Say it now, Mary Jo.
against Israel.
Say it now.
Against the United States, if the United States continues to act.
Yeah, say it with your
ways
high
against
pitched voice. Get your
Iran,
ass up
or
out of
Iran
here.
retaliates, and the
Fuck
United
you think
States
you
then
talking
has to go
to?
back into Iran based on its retaliation against our forces in the area.
I don't know how she thought that was gonna work.
And a follow-up to that question, as we were discussing Russia, Andy from Spokane asking, what's to say Iran won't buy nukes from China or Russia?
Well, nothing, except that the Iranians may not have the leverage to buy them, because it's not just money. You have to have something else on the table to get a nuke. And China and Russia giving Iran a nuke and making Iran
No damn wonder.
powerful in the region, that's not necessarily in their own interests.
I bet you she looked just like this mutt.
Russia's looking out for themselves.
I bet you she looked just like this mutt.
Iran helps them.
A damn mutt.
Helping Iran get a nuclear weapon destabilizes the Middle East even more. And I don't think Russia or China want that.
Rob Sanders, always a pleasure. We appreciate your expertise and perspective. You answered a lot of viewer questions and made it make sense, because for so many people who are living this in real time, they understand it on a daily basis. But right here in the U.S. with our freedom, sometimes it's hard to wrap your mind around that. So thank you so much.
You ugly
for the
if the best
detail,
picture
for
you
the
got is of a
insight, for your
damn dog.
expertise, and I hope you have
Girl,
a great
get
rest
on.
of your Sunday.
You too, Jeannie. Good talking.
Thank you. I'm Jeannie Francine. We're going to step aside for another 2-minute commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We have more reaction from lawmakers, more experts joining us on the other side of the break.
Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. I don't take kind of threats. So watch what you say over here, because I will delete you and report you. Don't ever or else me. That's a threat.
7:49 here on the East Coast, and welcome back to Live Now from Fox. Before the break, I did mention how lawmakers are responding to President Donald Trump's decision against Iran. But I want to get to the very latest from the commander-in-chief this morning. This just into our Live Now from Fox Studios, the very latest from President Donald Trump. He says, quote, any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed
I don't
tonight.
care nothing about them. People ask me about my still pictures. They don't obviously have a page, and they don't know nothing about the guidelines with YouTube. So they can go somewhere else if they don't like it.
I do want to share with you the
go somewhere else if you don't like my setup.
He says, quote,
don't ask me about what I do, how I do it. If you don't like it, leave.
The risk of war has now dramatically increased.
Dang, it's just that simple.
Of our troops in the region.
Man, it's late, so please don't piss me off. Don't ask me about shit that I do. If you do not like it, beat your feet. Okay?
For the use of military and risks American entanglement.
Y'all some entitled ass people. Get your own shit.
Jeffries concludes his statement by saying, quote, first, the Trump administration bears the heavy burden of explaining to the American
That's
people
the second threat. I'm reporting you for harassment. I asked you not to do that. Now you're bullying me, Gene. Your or else is a threat. Now you're bullying. You're cyber bullying me. P. Diddy.
Unilateral military
P. Diddy.
Again, that's the very latest from
y'all say by the Gene.
Jeffries this Sunday morning. He sent that response.
Y'all feel entitled to do whatever the hell y'all want to do, not with me.
Latest. And I will tell you all, as we were talking about response, we do know there will be a Pentagon briefing.
Or else you gonna get your ass up out of here. Yeah. After I report you for bullying and harassing.
And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs
put them eyes on you.
Briefing at the Pentagon as relates to this breaking news. And as you can imagine, right here on Live Now from Fox, we have you covered. You will get those remarks in full, live, raw, and uninterrupted. We're going to step aside for another 2-minute commercial break. We'll be right back.
Be believed whether it crippled entirely the Tomahawk missiles at 2 other sites there. They've been called massive precision strikes. I think what we need to know, and I'm not sure whether that is knowable at this point, is how damaging that was. If the White House is to be believed, whether it crippled and entirely took out Iran's nuclear capabilities at 4 natanz and Safran. He's calling it but the other thing we need to be concerned about now is he mentioned when he took out Qassam, the assassination of Qassam Soleimani when he was president. And we saw the retaliation then across multiple American targets. There are 40,000 U.S. service members spread throughout the Middle East, and they have come under attack before. And we've
everybody who's coming
up to this, because it was always a what if, but leading up to where we are now, we've been speaking to people here at the Pentagon, DOD, saying if there is an Iranian retaliation, how are we postured? How is the United States postured to defend against that? There are multiple. In fact, I can't remember how many times or how the last time we've seen this many assets flooded into that area in order to defend against a possible Iranian retaliation to protect U.S. forces there.
No doubt that force posture has been really built up in these past few days. At the same time,
it was breaking news here on Live Now from Fox. Following the very latest out in the Middle East is coming on the heels of President Donald Trump ordering Military strikes on 3 major Iranian nuclear sites on Saturday. Iran retaliated against Israel this Sunday morning, happening right now. Sirens in Tel Aviv, Israel, for incoming missiles. One has already struck the area there and residences, and you can see first responders, Israeli officials, police, those there surveying the area, combing through now evidence. We have been told that at least 5 people are wounded, now taken to the hospital. I do want to pot up the audio so you can listen in as all of this is going on in real time.
Thank you, Robert. We probably will in that. He has to have he has to get approval for that through Congress. Congressional. And he knew that they had said no, and he did it anyway. Ain't that horrible? We said we tried to fight, and all our life we had to fight. We tired of fighting. I agree, Thomas. It is most definitely a mess. No, it's all my life. All our life in the U.S., we had to fight. We have to fight Iran. We have to. Who else we know? Pakistan. I don't know. I'm just naming out stuff. What's the Naira? What's their money? Is that Iranian money? Yeah. Oh, I need to check my foreign currency. Anybody got a currency? Oh yeah, them suicide bombers. He forgot about 9/11. Please double tap the screen on your phone. I hit the thumb up button, the like button. It's almost 400 people in here. I need the lights up, please. Well, who can? No.
דווקא אהבתי את המזרקה הזאת. דווקא אהבתי את המזרקה הזאת.
So, could you give me first of all your name and position? The name is Erez Geller. The position is Regional Director, Carmel Region of Magen David Adom. So can you give a quick update on what happened and what do we know so far? Yes. What we have over here is a rocket attack on Haifa City. Our ambulances and intensive care unit rushed to the scene. We discovered over here 4 minor wounded and 2 people with anxiety reaction. That's it. Our EMTs and paramedics rushed them to the hospital within 10 minutes. And thank God, that's everything for now. One of my peers lives over here in the building behind us. He was minor wounded. He left everything, gave first aid, and only after the event, he went to the hospital to check himself. Other than that, everything is okay. Thank you. Thank you. Keep safe.
Yeah, some things they can't show on YouTube. They will get their page taken. I mean, we can't just show any and everything we want to. We have guidelines on YouTube. I don't know if people know that or not. Yeah,
If you're just now tuning into live,
certain things we can show and certain things we cannot.
As Israeli officials are coming up to media crews in that area of Haifa, Israel, as Iranian missiles have struck the city of Tel Aviv there in central Israel. We were told at last count at least 5 people.
And trust me, they change their guidelines often.
Listed and wounded. condition. This coming on the heels of breaking news following a Saturday evening early into the Sunday morning hours as President Donald Trump joins Israel in its campaign against Iran. The commander-in-chief ordering U.S. military strikes on 3 major Iranian nuclear sites Saturday, and we see the aftermath early this Sunday morning is Iran retaliating against Israel.
Hi, Elise.
2:06 is the time here on the East Coast. Good morning to you. If you're just now tuning in, I'm Jeanne Francine. We will continue with this breaking news after a brief 2-minute commercial break. Don't go anywhere.
Okay, so while we on commercial break, everybody needs to double tap their screens on their telephones. The lights need to go up or I'm gonna go to sleep. I am already in the bed, baby. Sure am. Trump is a type of person who will make people enlist, although he aborted. He came up with some flat-foot excuse of blind in one eye and can't see out the other to not be forced to go into war back in the day. It was Iran hiding underground. What was they hiding underground? I don't know. Let me get back over here.
Brought about 70 of them by plane to Greece, evacuating them from the area. The airspace over Israel has been closed. For days, so it has made it hard for people to leave if they wanted to, because there has been this back and forth with Iran's retaliation against Israel. Some of those missiles piercing their defenses, those U.S.-provided defenses in many ways. And I know it has been remarkable, Charlie, that whether we're talking to current or former officials, they all seem to say it's amazing we haven't yet seen retaliation. We haven't yet seen a strike against a U.S. base or U.S. assets. Now that the United States has entered this conflict in this way, that may change. And
this Sunday morning here at 2:08 on the East Coast, you're getting a live look there. Jerusalem looking into Tel Aviv. This as President Trump joins Israel in its campaign against Iran in the Middle East. The commander-in-chief ordering U.S. military strikes on 3 major Iranian nuclear sites Saturday. Right now, we want to check in with Fox News chief foreign correspondent Trey Yanks. He has the very latest details from Tel Aviv.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace.
This has been the talk of Israel for the past several days as the country waited to see if the Americans would get directly involved in the conflict. And even up in the last few hours, I was talking with current and trying to get an understanding of when this might happen. And at 1:55 local time, one source said rumors, Trump gave the word, supposed to be happening now. We were working on tracking it down, and the president taking to Truth Social to say the Americans did indeed strike 3 separate Iranian nuclear facilities, including the Fordow nuclear facility deep underground outside of the Iranian capital of Tehran. The bottom line here is that people are talking about enrichment. They understand that this decision was made because the Iranians were increasing their uranium enrichment capabilities and increasing the purity closer and closer to weapons-grade material. And the concern was that the Iranian regime was just weeks away from being able to build a nuclear bomb. We've seen over the past 9 days, the country has the ability to strike major population centers here in Israel with ballistic missiles. So you can imagine that having a nuclear warhead that could ultimately be attached to a ballistic missile would clearly be a direct threat to the Jewish state. And that was why the Israelis said that they made the decision to start these strikes against Iranian nuclear facilities and against top IRGC officials. And clearly tonight, President Trump ordering these strikes against the Iranian regime's nuclear program because there was no off-ramp for diplomacy at this point. And so this is a historic moment in the Middle East tonight, and again, an opportunity for the region, as the president laid out in his statement, for peace in the future, because this is a region that understands peace through strength.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace.
All right, so that was the very latest from Fox News correspondent Trey Yingst, joining us live in Israel all throughout the Saturday and early Sunday morning. We'll have more from Trey later in our broadcast, but as we do so, bringing you back stateside to give you a live look at the White House on this Sunday morning, I want to share with you the very latest remarks from the Commander-in-Chief, as he did moments ago, about 59 minutes out on Truth Social. Pete Hegseth putting it on X this morning as a retweet. It says, quote, "Any retaliation by Iran against the United States of America will be met with force far greater than what was witnessed tonight." The Commander-in-Chief concludes his statement by acknowledging Trump, President of the United States, and it has been met with criticism. So it has been met with acceptance and happiness. Secretary Kristi Noem putting out on X, "We will work unceasingly to protect the American homeland. Thank you, President Donald Trump." She concludes her statement by saying, "In God we trust." Taking you back out to the White House on
that
Sunday
we do.
morning, where President Donald Trump gave brief remarks. Behind him was J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Pete Hegseth. He gave those remarks late Saturday evening around 10 p.m. Eastern Time. If you weren't able to hear those remarks, I want to play them in full right now. About 4 minutes of remarks following the decision of the Commander-in-Chief.
Oh, Girl, you play this one more time.
Thank you very much. A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names
Lord.
for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear.
Oh, he changing the color of his tint. He ain't so orange.
The nuclear threat.
He don't want to be the orange man no more.
One state sponsor of terror.
He done changed his hair color.
World that the
And
strikes
his
were a
skin color.
spectacular military success.
Oh shit!
Iran's key nuclear
He trying to go into the skies. What he doing?
Obliterated.
He ain't orange no more. He ain't the orange man.
Must now make peace. If they
Or is my eyes tripping? Where is her?
And a lot
You know, it started turning
For
yellow.
40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East
James White.
and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team like perhaps no team has ever worked before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel. I want to thank the Israeli military for the wonderful job they've done. And most importantly, I want to congratulate the great American patriots who flew those magnificent machines tonight and all of the United States military on an operation the likes of which the world has not seen in many, many decades. Hopefully, we will no longer need their services in this capacity. I hope that's so. I also want to congratulate the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin Kane, spectacular general, and all of the brilliant military minds involved in this attack. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There has never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. Tomorrow, General Kane, Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth will have a press conference at 8 a.m. at the Pentagon. And I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I want to just say, we love you, God, and we love our great military. Protect them. God bless the Middle East. God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
So you just heard in full the very latest from President Donald Trump, that coming on the heels of his decision to order U.S. military strikes on 3 major Iranian nuclear sites on Saturday. And again, he did share, and I want to share this content note with you again, there will be a Pentagon briefing later this morning, slated for 8 a.m. Eastern Time. Again, U.S. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth
1,130 people have voted.
Air Force General. They will both hold a briefing at the Pentagon as it relates to this breaking news alert. Now, following those statements from President Donald Trump, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he gave remarks. I want to transition to take you across international waters and give you a live look out in the Middle East.
Thank you, God.
Jerusalem and also Tel Aviv, Israel, here on this Sunday morning on your screen. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saying that he stands in solidarity with the U.S. along with many of the Israeli people. Take a listen to his full remarks.
Congratulations, President Trump. Your bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities with the awesome and righteous might of the United States will change history. In Operation Rising Lion, Israel has done truly amazing things. But in tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do. History will record that President Trump acted to deny the world's most dangerous regime the world's most dangerous weapons. His leadership today has created a pivot of history that can help lead the Middle East and beyond to a future of prosperity and peace. President Trump and I often say, peace through strength. First comes strength, then comes peace. And tonight, President Trump and the United States acted with a lot of strength. President Trump, I thank you. The people of Israel thank you. The forces of civilization thank you. God bless America. God bless Israel. And may God bless our unshakable alliance, our unbreakable faith. Congratulations.
All right, so that was the very latest from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. He did give those remarks following President Donald Trump speaking alongside J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Pete Hegseth, which we did play out for you in full, giving you another live look out in the Middle East. And then we do know that Netanyahu just stated, quote, Trump's bold decision to target Iran's nuclear facilities will change history. So we are following the very latest from all sides of this conflict. As we do know, with this U.S. decision, a lot of eyes are on Iran, wondering what will happen next. Well, we actually have an answer to that question that many you all had. I want to transition to give you a different angle of the Middle East. This taking you out to Tel Aviv, Israel, here at 2:20 on the East Coast. And you can see Iranian missiles early this Sunday morning did strike this area. We heard from officials who say at least 5 people were taken to the hospital. They also say that officials are out there combing through the rubble to see if maybe there's anyone underneath. I want to play some of the brief remarks from officials as all of this unfolded.
Okay, can you please tell me what's happening here this morning? As you can see behind me, we're in the center of Israel, central division of Israel. A missile fire hit right inside of the building complex behind me. We've already transported around 5 injured, still treating here wounded around us. Thankfully, nothing that severe, but minutes after the blast was heard, we've already made our way on scene, and we'll keep on treating. Even though we tell people, stay inside, listen to home front command, we have to make sure we can get out as fast as possible, so sadly we can't do that. Can you tell me around the country how many patients you do now? I still don't know. As you can see, we're here live on the ground, boots on the ground. I don't know what's happening around us yet. What's the full name, please? Ori Lazarovich. אנחנו נמצאים כרגע במרכז הארץ, באתר של קהילת. So, could you give me first of all your name and your position?
Hi, West Coast.
The position is Regional Director, Carmel Region of Magen David Adolph.
So can you give a quick update on what happened and what do we know so far?
Yes. What we have over here is a rocket attack on Haifa City. Our ambulances and intensive care unit rushed to the scene. We discovered over here 4 minor wounded and 2 people with anxiety reaction. That's it. Our EMTs and paramedics rushed them to the hospital within 10 minutes. And thank God, that's everything for now. One of my volunteers lives over here in the building behind us. He was minor wounded. He left everything, gave first aid, and only after the event, he went to the hospital to check himself. Other than that, everything is okay. Thank you. Keep safe.
Iranians have just launched a large-scale ballistic missile attack against Israel following those American strikes overnight that targeted Iran's nuclear facilities. We've heard massive explosions amid interceptions overhead. Initially, we were reporting outside. We've taken some cover here as this attack continues. So far, it's been in 2 waves targeting Tel Aviv. 2 sets of sirens sounded, and some really, really large interceptions that are shaking the entire building that we are in. There are no reports yet of impacts, but it's very early. We have to wait and see what extra information that we can gather. But again, the latest information that I have right now, Iran has launched another large ballistic missile attack against Israel. Sirens are sounding across this country from Jerusalem to Tel Aviv. There are currently millions of people in bomb shelters taking cover as this fire continues from Iran. There are also reports of sirens sounding in neighboring Jordan as these missiles fly overhead. We'll keep you posted as we get more information. Iranians have just launched a large-scale ballistic missile attack against...
All right, so I wanted to play out those latest remarks from all sides there in Israel. You heard from Fox News, foreign correspondent Trey Yingst there, and then you heard from officials on the ground as well. All 3 of those gentlemen there in Israel.
We haven't seen any evidence of that, but that is the big concern. And the other thing I should say is that there's also a lot of concern about radiation. Gulf countries and Iraq are monitoring radiation levels in the region. There's no threat at the moment, according to experts, but the Bushehr nuclear power plant in Iran, which is the only operational nuclear power plant, if that were to be hit, then that would potentially be catastrophic. And that's already been warned by the IAEA that would have very serious consequences. Now, I would say that there's no evidence that is going to happen. There's no suggestion that's going to happen. But certainly all eyes are on the news this morning. I've had lots of text messages from a lot of worried people.
Thank you so much, Sally, for bringing us up to date there from Dubai. I'm just going to bring in Ashley Perry, who's a former senior advisor to the Israeli government. Thank you so much, Ashley, for joining us here on the program. So Israel and the region have woken up to this news that Donald Trump has launched this attack on Iran's nuclear facilities. Just a reaction.
Well, first of all, I think this is a great day for global security. We are talking about the greatest threat to global stability. We're talking about a regime that not just called for death to Israel, death to the US, death to Britain, death to the West, but was actually creating the means to do it. They've said many times, death to all these countries is not a slogan, it's a policy. And they were moving rapidly. It was really 1 minute to midnight before they were capable of having an actual nuclear weapon, which would have been able to not just target Israel, all of Europe, including the UK, and working towards being able to also target the US in the future with some sort of satellite launch vehicles that basically would be able to target any inch surface area in the whole world. And that is not something that anyone in the international community could countenance. So as the Chancellor of Germany said the other day, Israel is doing the dirty work of the world.
As you just pointed out, with the Chancellor saying Israel is doing the dirty work of the rest of the world, we've seen the United States now say that they have finished it off by targeting these nuclear facilities. But the big question is, what does the day after look like? Has it really been finished off? And does this spill into a wider regional conflict?
Well, certainly we hope not, but the ball is certainly...
Yeah, you did it!
The stars are pitch perfect.
I look like a dancing girl emoji.
Invite you to a negotiations weren't going anywhere because of the Iranian belief that they had supreme leverage with their hurtling towards a nuclear weapon. Now, hopefully that has been relieved from them, and hopefully they're going to go back to the negotiating table as soon as possible and really sign a reasonable agreement that allows them some sort of nuclear civilian technology, but certainly not the weapons-grade uranium that they've already created. And basically ensures that they don't get that nuclear weapon that they've sought for decades.
Yeah, Ashley, I know you say it's 1 minute to midnight, but we've seen so many multiple reports saying that there was a disparity between Israeli intelligence and US intelligence. And Tulsi Gabbard has come out in the last few days trying to clarify what she said in March when she said that Iran is not close to weaponizing its program. I spoke to the IAEA this week and said while Iran wasn't meeting its obligations, they didn't believe that they were close to weaponizing their program. So do you believe that perhaps for Benjamin Netanyahu, while strategically the Israeli officials say this was a good time, for him it was also about political survival?
No, absolutely not. We know around the world there is no nuclear civilian program that enriches uranium above 5%. The Iranians had reached almost 90%, which is weapons-grade material. Most around the world understood that. Even the IAEA has confirmed that. And let's not forget President Trump and other members of the American administration basically went against what Tulsi said a few months ago. And there was really an understanding in capitals around the world. That's what led to this sort of barrage of negotiations and the fear and the threat that, okay, we can argue whether they're 1 minute to midnight or 2 minutes to midnight. Either way, they're on the cusp of a nuclear weapon and the ability to send it across the world.
And I guess we go back to the concern then, because I just want to show our viewers the images from central and northern Israel this morning. Those ballistic missiles coming in from Iran continue. We've seen extensive amounts of damage, while the death toll here in Israel hasn't been high because people are following the rules and they are going down to the bunkers once the sirens blare. There is also no guarantee that this isn't going to turn into some kind of war of attrition, where we see these scenes every few days here in Israel. And of course, Israel responding by launching strikes on Iranians. And while Israel to say they're not targeting civilians, we have seen up to 700 Iranians killed over the course of the last week.
Well, simply the cost of inaction was far greater. I myself in the safe room, as millions of Israelis are, these were built to save lives. If we didn't have them, the cost in Israeli lives would be in the thousands. Iran launched 30 missiles just a couple of hours ago, and that's basically been the story for the last week. Israelis would be killed in the thousands, maybe even the tens of thousands, if we didn't take these precautionary measures. But the Israeli public is solidly behind this action, whether you agree with Prime Minister Netanyahu or not as a political figure. The opposition leaders are all behind the Israeli government because they understand that this is an existential threat. Iran says death to Israel, they say
okay, here I go.
This is not a slogan, this is policy. We saw it on October 7th. That was just the first round in this Iranian plan for the annihilation of the Jewish state. We found all sorts of records. We even took out last night the Iranian connecting factor from the Revolutionary Guards to Hamas, supporting them, funding them, ensuring that what they did, their massacre on October 7th, was only supposed to be the first round in the eventual destruction.
Please double tap the face of your phone, get the lights up.
And they're prepared for the days to come, and they're prepared for more and more barrages of missiles. We will run to our safe rooms, but we are solidly behind the Israeli leadership because we understand without these attacks, our existence, our survival simply would be in the balance.
And Ashley, there are reports also coming in that perhaps the Iranians had moved many of the materials, the centrifuges, out of these facilities, especially Fordo. Do you have any information around that?
I don't think anyone does, except for, thankfully, Israeli intelligence, and I'm sure US intelligence as well. This war will go on as long as the Iranians don't come back to the negotiating table in a serious and diligent manner. So until that time, Israel will continue to target what it needs to target, as has been shown for the last, 8 or 9 days. Israeli intelligence knows where everything is, where every figure is, where every centrifuge is. So I have no doubt it wasn't done today. It will certainly be done in the coming days.
Ashley Perry, thank you very much for joining us here on the program.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to bring in our political correspondent, Amanda Akas, because Amanda, I understand the Prime Minister made a statement. Just bring us up to date.
Maria.
Yes, he has in the last few moments. Let me read it to you. He said, Iran's nuclear program is a grave threat to international security. Iran can never be allowed to develop a nuclear weapon, and the US has taken action to alleviate that threat.
You can hear
the situation in the Middle East remains volatile, and stability in the region is a priority. We call on Iran to return to the negotiating table and reach a diplomatic solution to end this crisis. So that's a very diplomatic statement, clearly, from the Prime Minister, who has been calling throughout this crisis for de-escalation, for a diplomatic solution. We've seen David Lammy, the Foreign Secretary, flying between Washington and Geneva, trying to hold talks with other European his Iranian counterparts to bring about some kind of negotiated diplomatic solution to bring an end to the Iranian nuclear program. Clearly, the UK government was hoping that Donald Trump's talks of a 2-week pause window to wait for such a solution to be found. The UK had been pinning its hopes on that, but that clearly hasn't happened. Now, Sir Keir Starmer, obviously also a very close ally of Donald Trump, Trump has invested a lot of political capital building a close relationship with the American president, not at all critical of this action, reiterating the UK's concerns about Iran's nuclear program as a grave threat to international security. We do understand, however, that the UK has not been involved in these strikes operationally, no military assets involved and no use either. That would suggest of the UK military base at Diego Garcia, which the US does operate from but needs the UK permission to do so. That seems not to be in the case. It looks like the US bombers, we understand, we're heading towards the US base in Guam, but that is still, nothing has been confirmed in terms of the operational military situation from that perspective. We've heard nothing from the MOD. In terms of the political reaction in the UK, we are having a few lines coming through to us. Reform UK, they've put out a statement saying they stand behind the military actions of the USA overnight. Iran must not be allowed to have nuclear weapons. The future of Israel depends on it. Former Defence Secretary Grant Shapps also come out critical of the Prime Minister's diplomatic stance, saying his calls for restraint were dangerously naive, saying Donald Trump has made the right call, not just for Israel, but for the situation in the Middle East more broadly. Of course, opposition MPs on other sides don't agree with that. Plaid Cymru, for example, they've come out saying this will create a more volatile, potentially uncontrollable position in the Middle East, and they don't want the UK to be involved in an escalating war there. Now, clearly, Sir Keir Starmer is very well aware, as an eminent international lawyer previously, of all the implications of this. The Labour Party deeply scarred, of course, by Tony Blair's decision to join the invasion of Iraq with the US. So clearly, politically, there's a great deal going on behind the scenes in Downing Street today.
I agree.
Amanda, thank you so much for bringing us up to date, for all of that analysis. Let's bring in our Ali Bunkel, who's standing by here with me in Jerusalem. And Ali, early hours of this morning, we got that Truth Social statement to say what many in the region had feared, were anticipating, Israel was encouraging, and Donald Trump finally did.
He did. He, over the last few days, has given very mixed signals, regularly contradicting himself, sometimes even in the same day. He had then suggested that there would be a 2-week window to see whether diplomacy would work, but he did use a key word in that statement. He said within, let's see whether diplomacy works, or within 2 weeks. So it wasn't a firm 2 weeks. In the end, I think he gave it 2 days. It has to be seen as a bit of a snub towards the Europeans who met with the Iranians in Geneva at the back end of the week. Those talks clearly didn't go anywhere. We assume that David Lammy, who had been to see Marco Rubio and Steve Witkoff in Washington immediately before heading to those talks, so was probably acting as a bit of a go-between, if you like. We assume that the messaging was that the Iranians at that moment either weren't interested in seriously talking, or what they wanted to talk about was not in the interests of the United States. And so he's given this order. It's a diplomatic victory for Benjamin Netanyahu,
because he just be talking.
Trying to persuade them.
He don't even really be paying attention to what's going on. He just be talking.
Weighed up all of his options, weighed up the threat to the US and military personnel around the region, weighed up the threat of an escalating conflict that would drag the United States in, but has decided that this is the course of action he wanted to take, and he'll have taken it in the hope that it'll be a one and done, and he can claim sort of personal, decisive action, and he can also laud the US military, and it won't spiral. If it spirals, he's going to find himself in something that he's not really experienced ever before.
Yeah, absolutely. Some 6-7 months into his second term, this is certainly the biggest crisis that he has had to manage, he and his team. And we are expecting to hear from Pete Hegseth a little later today, press conference that will probably give us a wider sort of detailing of what happened. I guess the question, Ali, is, did the Iranians misjudge this entire thing in the lead up to the initial Israeli attacks last Friday, where they seemed to be caught by surprise, and we saw their top commanders, top leadership being taken out by Israeli strikes, and then military facilities, nuclear facilities targeted, and still refusing to sort of negotiate. And then on Friday, they seemed to again, not come to the negotiating table, despite all week Donald Trump saying there's still time. You need to, he went between you need to negotiate to you need to surrender. There was all sorts of mixed messaging throughout the week. And although he was cautious at the very beginning about this attack that Israel had launched, I think he saw where the mood music was going and that Israel was having a lot of success in the skies, on the ground, much more than even the Israelis anticipated. And so perhaps Iran will have to wait and see whether it's just miscalculated how the United States, how Israel was going to react over the course of the last 10 days.
Iran's totally misread it. Totally misread it. Do you remember when Israel launched the strikes early hours of last Friday morning? You know, it was about 48 hours out from supposedly another round of talks between the US and the Iranians in Moscow, the Omani capital. So I think the general vibe, most people thought, well, nothing's going to happen before then. The Israelis took the element of surprise. Whether or not it was with the American blessing, we don't know. But they took the element of surprise, and boy, did they surprise the Iranians. They managed very swiftly, within almost minutes of launching those strikes, to take out some very senior commanders who were meeting in a location that, had they known the attacks were coming, would not have been there for sure. And every day since, they have pretty steadily eroded much of Iran's military capability, and I think the Iranians miscalculated on this front as well. I think it was becoming more likely the Americans would get involved, and then I think yesterday people were monitoring air movements as well of the US B-2 bombers. I wonder whether that's why we've seen the satellite pictures of the Iranians moving stuff out of Fordow. They would have known something was coming. I'm guessing they probably would have got some intel help from the Russians and the Chinese, the use of satellite imagery, etc., like that, to forewarn them. But yeah, not only have the Iranians miscalculated on a number of occasions.
Everybody who's just coming in, please double tap your screen on your phone.
Frankly,
get the lights up or hit the thumbs up on your tablet or computer. Got to get the lights up or I'm about to shut it down.
The constant Israeli attack.
Yeah, and Ali, big questions now about what the Supreme Leader will do, because, of course, Israel has threatened to regime change and to take out the Supreme Leader. The United States President at one point talked about the fact that they knew exactly where he was, sending a sort of threat. And Donald Trump, even in his statement, said, what we do next is going to be far worse than what you've seen so far. So sending out very clear warnings to Iran that they don't want to see them retaliating against U.S. assets in the region, the continued attacks here on Israel. We saw just this morning the barrage of ballistic missiles here.
My reading is the Supreme Leader has no good choices. I mean, if you were to put it in a binary form, retaliate in a very, very strong way, and then you risk the US getting properly involved in this, and that's pretty much a fight that Iran will lose. Okay, and then I suppose simply put the other way is,
but we don't even want to do that.
Retaliation, but some sort of softer, more symbolic retaliation, and you then run the risk
people are going to get killed.
Major unrest domestically, because the Iranian people, and it is a divided country, they will now be looking at the billions of dollars spent on this nuclear program, huge sanctions that has affected their daily lives as well. All for what? Because it's been taken out, if that is indeed the assessment eventually, it has been taken out in just over a week. And any unrest that is bubbling now runs the risk of spilling out onto the streets, not whilst they're under attack, for two reasons. Would you go out to massive protests when the Israelis are regularly bombing Tehran? And secondly, because at the moment there is a sort of a feeling of nationalism and solidarity because the country's under attack. But as soon as it goes quiet, that's the moment that the Ayatollah is at his most vulnerable. And they will know that. And it is hard to know not only which way they will turn, but for his own survival, which way he should turn.
Yeah. we'll have to monitor the developments here from the ground. But Ali, thank you so much for that update. For now, let's go to London and speak with our security and defence editor, Deborah Hayes, who joins me now live. And Deborah, huge developments overnight. There have been some responses from the UK side, the Prime Minister putting out a statement, but also we're getting this very clear sense from the UK that they want to make it clear that they weren't directly
can you please double tap your screen
in any way in these strikes.
I hit the like button,
overnight.
Please.
Yes, you'll remember there's been a lot of discussion in the days leading up to what happened overnight as to whether or not a British base in Diego Garcia would be used as a staging post for these B-2 bombers that have been deployed by the Americans against the Fordo nuclear facility and also Natanz. And it seems that those aircraft didn't come to Diego Garcia. They flew, it's been reported, a 37-hour round trip to drop the ordnance on the targets. And so that would mean that the British maybe were saved the embarrassment of being asked and having to say no if they aren't fully on board with taking out these targets. There's been a lot of discussion over the last few days over what the UK position is about the legality of the operation that's taking place. It is a nuanced position and it's ultimately a political decision, but maybe the Prime Minister was saved from having to make that decision. However, he is not saved from the fact that the UK is a key ally of the United States. And now British targets, as well as American targets, will of course be on a heightened state of alert for any retaliatory action by Iran outside of Israel. That was a state that they were already in. I was speaking to a source earlier in the week who was saying to me that military bases have been bolstered. We know we've had more jets being put in sight at Cyprus, RAF Akrotiri, and now you can imagine that maybe there will be more British assets move forward to try to bolster defences, but clearly from the British Prime Minister, again, calling for de-escalation, saying to Iran they need to come and negotiate. But this is a moment of maximum risk. It's a scenario that has been war-gamed by governments for years now, the potential for America to get involved in a bombing campaign with Iran. There's also been details that's been reported in the New York Times as to exactly what the scale of the operation was on the American side. They're saying that there were 6 B-2 bombers that dropped a dozen of these bunker-busting 30,000-pound bombs on the Fordo nuclear enrichment site. And then submarines were also used. They launched TLAM cruise missiles against the facilities at Natanz and Isfahan. And the New York Times is saying that another 2 of these bunker-busting bombs were also then dropped on Natanz. So a huge amount of firepower to target these facilities. And clearly the question is not just what the retaliation might be, but whether or not they've been effective, whether or not they really have managed to degrade Iran's ability to enrich uranium and, as the Americans and the Israelis allege, accelerate ambitions to build a nuclear bomb.
Yeah, certainly on the Iranian side, officials there have been trying to downplay the damage done very much soon after the attacks were launched. They put out statements to their local press saying that only the entrance and the exit, for example, had been damaged. There's also a bit of news circulating that perhaps they had moved many of the centrifuges and the material out of these facilities. But as you say, we still have to wait and see. We're only just a few hours since those series of attacks on the nuclear sites were launched, and we'll have to wait and see what the actual damage that has been done. But when I've been speaking to the Israeli intelligence and military community, they've said to me that the United States has tested these bunker buster bombs, in places like Texas, for example. They know that they work, but it's still up in the air, and especially when the Iranians are, trying to muddy the waters and putting these sorts of statements out, no doubt speaking directly to a domestic audience to try and downplay this attack.
Yes, and this is the first time that these bombs have been used in combat. And like you say, there have been multiple tests and experiments to see whether it would work. And the Americans have been working on this exact plan for years now. And they are very, when you speak to Americans, they sound very confident that they believe they have got the capability to get into this mountain. The actual Fordo facility, it's under about 80 to 90 meters of mountain and enforced concrete. And these weapons, we're told, are the only ones that have the ability to reach that far. But if it's correct that the Iranians...
So weapons of mass destruction again. Oh, Lord.
Given that everyone could see the aircraft
now weapons of mass destruction.
The targets.
We don't fell for that banana in the tailpipe before, didn't we?
Enrichment capability
the Bush
out
campaign?
of the site, then clearly it's not been completely degraded. But like
Wasn't
you
that
say,
Bush with
there's still so much
weapons of
unknown
mass
about all of this
destruction
and what will come next. And another key thing to look at is what Iran's allies might do. Vladimir Putin was very clear over the last few days that he
that was a lie.
Strikes against
they be lying in our face, don't they?
Strikes by America against Iran's nuclear facilities. Iran and Russia are key allies. Russia needs the regime to help support its actions that it's doing in Ukraine. All of these crises are interconnected. Will Russia feel that it needs to actually get involved now and give more support to Iran?
Our eggs is going to go back up to $10 and $12, y'all. Gas going to go up, all that.
So it's hugely high-risk move here by America.
We're not going to be able to afford groceries.
To take this step. But, for example, the UK and other allies here in Europe...
And don't get nothing organic.
What happens next.
Lord, have mercy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about all of these different conflicts being interconnected.
I'm already having a hard time finding my plant-based meat.
Russia and Ukraine, all the concerns developing around whether China...
With that ICE deportation stuff,
the last thing that Donald Trump needed was another conflict in the Middle East, and one on the scale of this between Iran and Israel. Because whatever anyone says, when you speak to Israeli officials, they are aware of the fact that Iran is a large, serious country.
Yeah. And I know it's because he done deported the workers. I can't find certain stuff.
Start your path to a fulfilling...
very early on, or things could suddenly shift.
I already know what's going on.
These are all unknowns at this point in time.
Yes, and clearly Donald Trump has taken the decision that he can almost do this sort of surgical strike. Maybe there will be a sort of a nominal retaliation, and then we can all move on. But history shows that conflicts in the Middle East, they are not short and swift in general. Maybe the initial military action might be, but then there'll be long-term repercussions. So it is a huge gamble. And what has also been really striking...
Yeah, because all the damage seemed to have been on top. Oh, no, they said it goes down. It goes in the ground and then designates.
The French and the German positions, all of those three big European powers have been clearly calling strongly for de-escalation and for diplomacy. They even met with the Iranian foreign minister on Friday in Geneva for these talks. And Donald Trump just doesn't seem to be paying any heed to that at all. He's actually going to be coming to Europe.
Stock up on water.
Just this week for a big NATO summit where he is going to be
non-perishables,
calling on his European allies to do more to protect themselves. But that...
I mean, we playing, but I'm serious.
The US is also being
now that I'm talking about it, I'm serious in the heart attack.
Yeah, absolutely. Very much so, Deborah. And as you say, we were expecting Donald Trump to go to the NATO summit. He is still attending, but he delayed his trip by a day, and we expect him to be there on Tuesday. Deb, thank you so much for bringing us up to date. No doubt we'll be speaking to you again. I just want to bring you a couple of updates. This one coming in from Saudi Arabia, and Reuters news agency is reporting that Saudi Arabia expresses with great concern developments after U.S. Targeting of Iranian nuclear facilities. That's coming in from the foreign ministry. The Saudi Foreign Ministry continues to say that they call on the international community to double efforts in such highly sensitive circumstances to reach a political solution to end
Since
the crisis.
2021. Prepper. What's a prepper? What do you mean? You prepare your, what does that mean? I don't want to try to guess what that means.
Concern that is being felt across this region.
Are you
this
saying
isn't just about Israel. This isn't just about Iran. The United States has bases and assets right across the region.
Are you? We was talking about food. So are you talking about food?
And all of these countries.
Hi, Roland.
Yeah, briefly, I suppose 3 obvious ways that Iran could retaliate. One is to keep firing missiles into Israel. They've done that this morning, but that is not a direct response to the Americans. Secondly, to attack US bases or maybe even diplomatic interests around the Middle East, and that could bring in the various different countries where those bases are located. And thirdly, to have a massive global impact, perhaps even mining the Strait of Hormuz, a crucial thoroughfare for a lot of the world's
They
shipping,
are ready for war.
or even attack oil refineries in that area. So they have options. None of them bode particularly well for the security of the region.
No, not at all. Ali, thank you so much. We'll keep you right there. We'll be back at the top of the hour. Do stay with us for all the developments here with our live and continuous
We
coverage.
just came off for inflation. Oh.
Our app gives you the very best of Sky News wherever you are.
Baby, them eggs was damn near $10, $11.
Podcasts, watching us live
here from Washington.
Whatever you get your podcast.
I ain't never paid groceries.
at just a touch of the screen.
Oh, them,
The Sky News app. Get the full story first.
I don't even want to talk about it. Hell, I'm shit. You know, shit. Them groceries is high. And I'm a pescatarian, so and I try to eat as much as, oh Lord, I don't even want to talk about it. It's almost finna be cheaper to eat out, hell, than to buy groceries. All will go up. Everything finna go up. You're right. Day by day. What's that? Lord, keep me day by day in a pure and perfect way. Well, it hates medical and survival, man. Depression. I'm not gonna let it depress me, I don't think.
Well, good morning. It is 5:39 and we're coming on a little bit early with breaking news this morning because the United States has launched a series of airstrikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure in what President Trump is calling a spectacular military success.
In a very late night address for him, it was very early in the morning here, the president declared Iran's key nuclear sites completely and totally obliterated. And he warned Tehran to make peace or face far greater tragedy.
How does he know?
The U.S.
He said that,
massive precision strikes on the 3 key.
He don't know. How could he assess the damage?
Iranian regime.
Right when it happened.
Natanz and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise.
Or they denies the hit. So he was just lying, talking.
Enrichment capacity.
What they say earlier today, every time he opened his mouth, he lied.
By the world's #1 state sponsor of terror.
It was a success. It was perfect. We obliterated.
military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. With all of that being said, this cannot continue. There will be either peace or there will be tragedy for Iran far greater than we have witnessed over the last 8 days. Remember, there are many targets left. Tonight's was the most difficult of them all, by far, and perhaps the most lethal. But if peace does not come quickly, we will go after those other targets with precision, speed, and skill. Most of them can be taken out in a matter of minutes. There's no military in the world that could have done what we did tonight, not even close. There's never been a military that could do what took place just a little while ago. God bless the Middle East, God bless Israel, and God bless America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Well, Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hailed the strikes a bold decision that will change history, praising what he called unprecedented cooperation between Israel and American forces.
Tonight's action against Iran's nuclear facilities, America has been truly unsurpassed. It has done what no other country on earth could do.
Well, in what marks a significant escalation in the conflict with Tehran, pressure will now be mounting on our Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, and the government to decide whether the UK should join the US, support the US in any future efforts.
Of minutes.
Well, let's talk to our Home and Security Officer,
of minutes.
Mark White, who joins us now. And in terms of UK cooperation, because this involved B-52 bombers, do we know if this required our agreement for them to operate of Diego Garcia?
Yeah, before I get to that, I should just say that as we speak, Israel is under attack. Missiles launched from Iran. You can see my trusty phone app there. This is northern Israel and central Israel, basically.
Skin, you must be young. This ain't the first time we've launched a missile.
The country, including central population, such as Tel Aviv and the northern city of Haifa. I think this was expected, obviously.
The skills of the military has been the skills of the military. They don't have nothing to do with Trump.
Shots from Tel Aviv and those other cities.
Nothing.
Looking into the sky there.
That's the skills of the military. That's nothing new.
Much as we're looking at the images there of Tel Aviv. But in recent days, the missile stocks, it seems, have been rather depleted. We know that there have been strikes that have been taking place by Israel constantly over Iran, in particular, as well as the nuclear sites, and going after military installations and other public buildings. They have gone after the missile launchers, those surface-to-surface launchers that have been firing the ballistic missiles.
He acting like he done
the numbers have been depleted. They have, the Iranians had a number of successes in terms of ballistic missiles.
The same man that said he beat
able to penetrate
the code-19
missile defense system.
First he said it didn't exist. Then when he got it and he was about to expire, then they gave him that super cocktail
and damage to,
and he beat it. Oh, I'm stronger than the code-19. I beat it. I beat it. I beat it.
In areas Iran denying that and claiming, of course, that Israel is responsible for targeting civilian population centers in Iran, something Israel also denies. But in terms of the significance, as you
so Michael, that's really what it is in the first place. But it's just how Trump is playing with it and manipulating and
B-2 bombers,
you know, creating more havoc. It's always been about
heavy munitions that are used.
It's always been biblical.
Deep into the earth, are often based out of Diego Garcia.
But
there are some other
Trump has demonic.
Region that they could operate out of as well, and they would clearly have to have a measure of cooperation. Given
I just wish there was someone else in office.
The Chicos Islands away in a deal to Mauritius, it's still a British base for the next 99 years. So we await from the word.
Trump started a war
know that those B-2
that could possibly have casualties unnecessarily. I'm just not a Trump ass eater. Just because he did it, I'm just not going to be like, yay, Trump. Trump makes a lot of mistakes.
Towards the Mediterranean.
We know,
and that's a period after that.
As well as these,
I'm just not going to co-sign it because he did it.
That were presumably
you go along to get along.
There were also
you cannot justify it.
Used, I think,
you just eating his ass.
Each piece of leg meat is individually frozen, not only preserving the integrity of each piece, but also ensuring a more efficient thought.
There were also Tomahawk missiles used, I think, fired from somewhere else.
No, but she was a female and she was black. So that was a no for white America. That was too much.
They will fire
that's too much now. Stop that. That's too much.
Their aircraft, but they will utilize their guided missile destroyers, which will be in that region, either operating separately or as part of that carrier battle group. And as I said, 2 carrier battle groups now currently in that Middle East area. They've got submarines, of course, that can fire.
I wasn't talking to you, Dynamite.
If the
did I say your name?
To get involved, and there's no indication that the UK either has been involved or will get involved or have even been asked by the US to get involved. What we've seen in the past are Tomahawk cruise missiles fired from British submarines, as well as, of course, raids from RAF Akrotiri in Cyprus using Typhoon aircraft, which would be accompanied by these
it's too late for me to be debating
so much about in the last couple of days.
I'm get ready to shut it down. My lights ain't went up, and I'm not going to be going back and forth with people who is not supporting my platform.
I should say
Let me tell you that now.
Bryce Norton, but as I say, I should add, no indication as yet that Britain has been involved or will be involved, but from past operations, either targeting missiles that have come from Iran or indeed with other operations like the operations in Syria and Iraq. That's where we've often seen UK military assets used and utilised.
Confirmation of what President Trump has claimed, Mark. I mean, we know Iran has confirmed the sites have been hit, but they're not providing any details. And I don't know if we've got any satellite imagery coming through yet. Because he has said...
You saying well done now. You let one of them terrorists...
yes, it's interesting.
Bombers come and hit somebody in your family. See if you continue to say that. You'll then be saying, this was unnecessary. Yeah, you let somebody in your family get hit and watch your whole way of thinking change.
Areas around entrances and exits, and I think they're acknowledging some damage.
Then you will say it's unnecessary.
Saying that
y'all such hypocrites. Y'all hypocrites just like he is one.
Into this mountainside actually has not been affected, and that might well be true. As good as the American capability is, they can only go so far into the ground. I think it's between 70 and 100 meters, if I recall. And it may well be that the Fordo site is buried much deeper than that, at least the critical parts of it, into the mountainside. Having said that, though, if you
Gary, you just now coming in that you hit the like button. Hey,
and effectively bring
that you need to hit the like button.
Tons of rock.
All y'all people just popping down speaking. Y'all did not double tap your screen
unusable for a long
or hit
time.
the thumbs up.
dug out again, and it's unlikely to be dug out in a time of conflict when Israel and the US at the moment are striking these facilities.
Dynamite 505, I agree with that. God bless us all.
With further strikes, you would imagine. So whatever the Iranians are saying and trying to play this down, I think there is no doubt with the capabilities that the US have, and notwithstanding the superlatives.
Hi Bernard, hit the like button. My like didn't go up when you drop down. Hit double tap your screen or hit the thumbs up. Hi Jason, y'all come in. Hit the like button or double tap your screen.
Now really have set back that nuclear program some way, and that's why, of course, Donald Trump, you hear him, even though the US has now entered this war and has actively it had always chosen a side, but in terms of militarily against Iran going in like this, he still believes that Iran can be brought round the table, but of course his demands are so much more and perhaps too difficult for Iran to stomach, because they seem to be one of complete capitulation here.
Didn't you say just a few minutes ago that Israel is being targeted at the moment as we speak?
Yes, that attack is underway. I'm just waiting, actually, monitoring a couple of phones here to find out if the all clear has been given.
I'm about to shut the poll down. Go ahead and vote.
Tel Aviv, it would be
I'm giving it 2 minutes.
So you don't
got 1,413 votes. Do you think Iran will strike back in the U.S.?
The latest word from the
Israeli Defense Forces, get your ass up out of here. I said I'm not going to go back and forth with people. It's too late, and you didn't hit the like button. Bye, dickhead.
To intercept the threat. Upon receiving an alert, the public is instructed to enter a protected space and remain there. So that's the kind of
don't come in here talking noise, sue me about me. I'm gonna get your ass up out of here.
There's another message.
Tell you that now.
Effectively saying that the sirens have sounded and that everyone should go to their allotted alert systems. And the alerts that I saw, it was over pretty much the whole of Israel. And I'll just check again. I don't think it was the Jerusalem area, though, but pretty much everywhere else apart from that, certainly over and now it's been updated, so Jerusalem as well, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Haifa, the whole of northern and central Israel.
Chris, I don't know how he thought that was going to go.
Missile alert. As I say, because of the clouds there, I mean, it's much easier
to see what he was thinking.
Missile strikes at night, where you see the Iron Dome and other layers of this missile defense system going up into the sky and taking out any missiles coming over. During the day, you can see the odd puff, but with so many clouds, you're not seeing an awful lot. But the cameraman in Tel Aviv trying his very best to look for any signs of a strike. As normal with these things, in about 15-20 minutes after the sirens sound, there is normally an all clear unless there's a second wave. It will be really interesting, I think, to see what the Iranian response has been. Clearly, they've been the subject of a massive attack overnight that has not just this time involved the Israelis, but also involved the Americans. So you would imagine that the response, if they have still the capability, given that, as I say, a lot of their missile capabilities, their surface-to-surface missile mobile batteries have been taken out, and the missile strikes we've seen of late seem to have been depleted. They may have gone as much as they can for a bigger launch this time. And what I think will be really interesting, Stephen and Anne, is what we see in terms of the wider region. Iran has been threatening the US that should it enter this conflict, that the response will be significant and overwhelming. Again, you know, that's the kind of overzealous use of language that you get from the Iranian regime at these times never necessarily borne out with the end result here, but I think it is probably a given that we are going to see attacks, if not directly from Iran, then certainly through its proxies in the region, in the likes of Syria and Iraq and Yemen, going after military bases. Remember, of course, those proxies, those terrorist groups affiliated and funded by Iran, have been severely degraded themselves over the past year, with Hezbollah in southern Lebanon.
Say that when some weapons of mass destruction come and hit your kids, Beth, when they fuck up your house and you can't, your cost of living goes up and skyrocket.
Hezbollah were taken out along with.
Say that.
Remember that audacious attack back in October of last year, in which all of the
when 9/11 hit you, hit your house, and it hits your town.
Exploding.
Remember that. You keep that same sentiment.
Many years in the gestation by Mossad had taken them out, had taken those.
You can bring up anybody you want to. You can bring up Clinton, you can bring up Obama, you can bring up Bush. It don't mean shit to me. You keep that when it affects your family. And I'm going to find you and ask you how you like it now.
Very significantly and severely degraded.
Yeah, how you like it now? He ain't the first president. You stupid. Oh, shut up. You slow. Y'all act like he the first president to do something. He the only one that is impulsive. Can't nobody tell his ass nothing. But y'all like that. Y'all hypocrites. Y'all hypocrites. Bottom line. I don't care who you voted for. I'm talking about right now. I don't care about who you voted for. We ain't talking about who you voted for. You moving the goalpost, post B. I don't give a shit. It wasn't necessary what happened with this bombing, period. I don't care about who you voted for.
This is the story of the war that dares not speak its name. A war that started over 40 years ago, but has never officially been declared.
Where's been declared?
Iran on one side, and the United States and Israel on the other is both ideological and strategic. A conflict that never fails to stir passions, resentment, and hatred. And if it ever really did kick off in earnest, the entire Middle East would go up in flames, very possibly triggering a new global conflict.
Bye, B.
So to understand this potential return to barbaric violence, we must go back in time to unravel the tangled threads of tragedy and seek the elusive truths behind the dogmas and certainties, and tell this story.
Hi, Rambler. Please get the likes up. Let's listen. This
The history
documentary.
of war began on February 1st, 1979, aboard a flight from Paris to Tehran. An old man prays. This is Ayatollah Khomeini. He is preparing to radically change the history of Iran.
It's not easy to talk about the greatness of this figure. One of his enemies once remarked that there had been no one like him for 800 years, and there would be no one else like him for another 1,000 years.
The old man historically embodied the people's opposition to the Shah, the all-powerful monarch who had reigned over Iran for nearly 40 years. In exile for 15 years, the Ayatollah was finally returning home for the final battle alongside his people. A revolution in the name of Shiite Islam. A new era was about to begin in the Middle East.
Next, I spoke to some diplomats in the region just within the past hour, and I was told there wasn't much of a heads up given to some of our allies there. Just to remind people, Charlie spoke about 40,000 U.S. military personnel in that region of the world. The fourth largest military installation America has in the world is in Kuwait, very close there to Iran. Communication, language, people take them for granted. Para mí, la comunicación lo es todo. I've been translating for my family since I was little. When I got to West Point, my very significant naval assets in Bahrain, a lot of American families stationed there. So it's not just Israel, it is the surrounding Arab countries that the U.S. is allied with who are holding their breath tonight, wondering if hosting those American forces also makes them a target. So we are going to be watching all those bases that you see there on the screen, as well as...
It's 3 GMT, 11 p.m. in Washington, D.C., 6:30 a.m.
I also just want to acknowledge here that while the president has been saying this was a successful strike, we don't yet know what the end game is here. We don't know that from the United States, and we don't know that from the nation of Israel either. The goal was stated to be destruction of Iran's nuclear program. Tonight, you have out of Iran's...
In Tehran, if you're just joining us on Al Jazeera, I'm Fuli Batibo with our continuing extended coverage of the U.S. military strikes on Iran. U.S. President Donald Trump says American forces have conducted what he calls very successful strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. President Trump announced that a full payload of bombs was dropped on Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. In his address to the nation a short while ago, the U.S. president warned Iran not to retaliate, urging it to make peace. Otherwise, the U.S. will go after other targets. Trump says the objective of the strikes was to destroy Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and to stop any nuclear threat. He says all three facilities have been, quote, obliterated. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has also spoken. He has thanked the U.S. for the strikes. Let's listen to what President Trump said in his address to the nation a short while ago.
The U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the three key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime, Fordow, Natanz, and Isfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated. Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier. For 40 years, Iran has been saying death to America, death to Israel. They have been killing our people, blowing off their arms, blowing off their legs with roadside bombs. That was their specialty. We lost over 1,000 people, and hundreds of thousands throughout the Middle East and around the world have died as a direct result of their hate. In particular, so many were killed by their general, Qasem Soleimani. I decided a long time ago that I would not let this happen. It will not continue. I want to thank and congratulate Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu. We worked as a team.
Okay, y'all, good night. I'm going to sleep.
Before. And we've gone a long way to erasing this horrible threat to Israel.
Good night.
I want to thank the Israeli military.
I'm sick of hearing him. I'm sick of him. I'm sick of him. Let's see what comes.
Whether or not it was deception to give the B-2s full surprise over Iran. And I think the president was pretty clear, Chris, over the past couple of days, within 2 weeks. And he kept saying,
you're welcome,
we just sort of start at the very closest point to what just happened. The East Room.
I'm done.
Walked out.
Good night.
An Oval Office address.
God bless.
Think
Bye,
about
peace.
the last time I remember a president speaking at this time of the evening on a weekend, it was Barack Obama talking about the killing of Osama bin Laden. That was on a Sunday night from the East Room, an address.
I thought that other lady said, Barack ain't doing that. And, it's hypocrites. I can't stand them.
Talking about them as the bully of the Middle East for the past 40 years. We haven't heard a president speak like that. This, I think you saw a level of emotion from President Trump conveying to the American people that he was angry. Angry at what Iran
angry
had
for
done
what?
in the past. You think about just in the past hour or so, the Iranians themselves
Okay, Crystal, good night.
said, you started this, Mr. Trump.
If y'all didn't hit the like button coming in, please hit it on your way out.
Places are in the Middle East, and you and I
would greatly appreciate it. And I gave you 3 hours and 12 minutes and 20 seconds.
The troops.
Good
That
night.
was the Iranians speaking. So I think that the message that the president was given tonight was not so much